Yo, mic check 1 2 1 2. Big up everyone, man. Shout out to everyone who's here already. You know what it is. It's your boy Shipper.
212. Big
Out
up
to the
everyone, man.
out to all my jokes and banter crew. Let me just turn off the echo. Yeah, man. I know everyone's like, yo, Shift, where you been? Like, where you guys been at? What's been going on? You been hiding? Have you quit? What are you doing? What you been up to? Um, we can get into that a little bit later, but there's been a lot going on still. Hence the title of the show. Um, Big up everyone. Big up Herbs. Yeah, big up the man. Them. I'm gonna send out some DMs and that right now and do a couple of bits. Big up Sham, who's been trying to get me to put on the show for ages now. Long story short, I had another phone with all of the StreamYard stuff in it. Like, it's weird because you can't get into StreamYard without it flipping sending you a message first to your old phone. So I had to get my old phone fixed. Yeah, which I've done now to be able to get back in. It's a long story, but it involves a lot of turbulence. It involves some blue lights. It involves some violations of people's rights, and I think we're gonna get into some of that today because there's some violations going on out there. Be careful out there on the roads. Especially if you're a smoker, be very careful. Car, you see what? Even if you ain't smoking, they could just smell something in your car right now. You getting spun right over. Do you see it? Um, yeah. Big up John B. Um, yeah. Big up Urban Analysis. I hear you, bro. If you gotta take the wifey to dinner, take her to dinner. It's not a thing. You can watch back later, or you can just listen in while you're out. I don't know if it's gonna be a long one. I don't know how long it's gonna take, but big up everyone. Appreciate you, man. Um, like I said, I'm about to send out some DMs, so I'm gonna give you lot some intro music while I do that. I won't be long, and yeah, just appreciate you being here. I appreciate being here full stop right now, man. Life is precious. Yeah. So big up everyone. Sorry we haven't been around as frequent as we wanted to recently, but give me 1 sec. I'm gonna give you some intro. I don't know what was going on there, but if anyone could hear the music, please let me know. It's like the screen share just. I don't know what was going on there. Yeah, that was weird. That was weird. That was weird. I don't think anyone could hear the music there. Let me try this screen share again. Sorry about that, people, man. You know you get rusty at these things after a while. Gotta make sure I hit all the right buttons, otherwise you just ain't gonna hear nothing. So let me just tone this down a second, because you see what? We can't be having all this feedback and excuses and mistakes and stuff, you know, like that. Because sometimes mistakes are just excuses and vice versa. So let me go back on this now. Let me go back to where I was. Hopefully we're gonna get this to work to the Mario Brothers beat. We're gonna do a couple more. We're gonna get straight into this. It goes. I kick back and drop clothes in my yard, eating bread rolls with eggs inside it. I got the mic, I ride it. Don't get on the bus and try to sit beside it, cause I don't want your coronavirus. No, I'm on the top of the mountain like a Cyrus. You can never get by this, don't try this. Yo, look into my iris. Yo, you can see what I is, you can see what I did. Yo, if I ain't J-Hus, I'm down at a bus, blow that kick, yeah, kick that. Might get punched in the lip, talking this shit. Hey, listen, I'm never doing no freestyling. Where's the next week? After Freestyle Friday, man. You don't want all that freestyle stuff, you need to go over there sometime. But we might do some over here. You might have to keep some up for you real soon. Alright, from the bottom up, from the ground up, let's get it. Anyone who's feeling the music, don't forget to subscribe to Pro G Music. Hold on, let me get the name of the channel up. I'm in the chat. If you need beats, that's what you need to be hollering at. Yeah? That real stuff. Yeah? You can just get it off of YouTube. Yeah, like I said there, if you don't want to get them type of beats there, you need to be hollering that Pro G Music. Yo, who's D? Hold on, D. 1 second. But yeah, you need to holler at Pro G Music. Go onto the Instagram, XYZ. You know, go and have a look at his thing. Yeah, he's got tunes out there. He's got things out there, man. Yo, D. Who D?
D, it's DJ Intensity. What you saying, bro?
What's going on, bro? I just had to make sure it was someone normal before I let you on the screen properly. You know, like that.
Yeah, that's cool. I hear what you're saying. What are you saying anyway? It's too hot, man. You can't do nothing in this weather, man. You just got to keep on like having cool drinks with ice cubes, but the ice cubes melt fucking too quick.
Trust me. Everyone's a hothead in this weather as well, man. It's
I know tempers are short. Tempers are short.
Yeah, even Lisa got short tempers in this weather, man.
When do they not, though, anyway? When do they not have short tempers? I've never met one with... Well, actually, I've met a few that are quite calm, but still.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
now the
yeah,
weather's turning people crazy. It's not a joke.
it's getting even hotter on Monday and Tuesday. It's going to be hitting like 40 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, I've heard. I've heard. I don't know how much I
That's
believe
mad.
it. We'll see though. We'll
Yeah.
see.
In the city, it will because it's not got any air vents going through it. It's all built up. So like places like Regent Street will probably hit it worse.
Yeah,
That's what I think.
100%.
Innit? So yeah, what you saying? Sorry, I missed your show quite a few times. You know.
No, you're good, man. Don't watch nothing, man. Like, you catch it
Oh,
when you catch it.
guess what I did?
Go on.
I was making some beats. Probably about 2, 3 in the morning, about 5, 6 weeks ago. Had a coffee, put it on the side. Just about to pick up the coffee, dropped it. It went on the PC. I've lost everything.
No, you're
I
lying.
swear down, yeah. I've got the only ones that I've got are ones that I've sent Dread. So I've got his tracks that I sent him.
Yeah.
So hopefully the ones that I've sent you, you've still got. But basically, it's starting again from day dot. It's starting right from the beginning again with my tracks. But it's
Oh,
good. It's
man.
good because I'll have a different switch on things because I'll have changed the way I work. But
Yeah.
yeah, still doing freestyles and shit like that. Like just keeping it real, just jamming.
I hope you've learned from this. Make sure you got at least 2 backups in future, man.
Mate, do you know what? I just got a German Shepherd, yeah, short-haired German Shepherd. So he's quite a small dog, quite jumpy.
Yeah.
And basically, I had 7 phones. Don't ask why I had 7 phones, but basically 3 of them went. So I was on a truck phone, like a basic phone, Nokia phone. And that was the only one that was working. And then I got a cable for my iPhone and I got that working again. So I've only got 1 phone out of 7 or 2 phones out of 7 that work. But I'm going to chuck the rest because I don't need them. That's from back in the day, but still hold on to them just in case I need the phones.
I hear you. 7 phones is a lot, though. But no, mate.
It's because I yeah. People do, why you got 7 phones? And it's just like backups.
I'm a hustler, baby, and I want you to know.
That's you joker, man. So yeah, how you been keeping? Because I haven't spoken to you in a very long time.
I've been good, you know. Like, life got a bit turbulent for a minute. There's been a lot going on. I've been stupid busy.
Yeah.
I've been dealing with like some issues as well, like especially with like police and living in a
Mm.
predominantly white area. It's like
Oh man.
there's certain times where like it won't even bother you that they're stopping you all the time, but at this point in time, it's like flipping hell. That I've had some
Yeah.
real close shaves where
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it could have went either way. I could have even caught a case, you know, like that for something
Oh
small,
shit.
nothing big, nothing
Yeah.
big,
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
like to worry about, but it's like you don't want that in your life. You don't even want a possession charge. You don't want none of it. And it's like, as a black man, they don't leave
Yeah.
you alone.
They'd throw a book at you, not being dark or anything. Do you know what I mean? I don't mean to be harsh, but they would. They'd throw the book at you usually. They'd be
Yeah,
bastards. Because like I'm white, with my lifestyle, what I do, things I do. If I ever got like, even though it's Percy, I'd get done for intent
yeah,
because I used to smoke that much, not weed or anything. I'm not going to say what I used to smoke and I used to have a past, but giving it up, doing the right things, changing my lifestyle, healthy eating, getting a dog, going out for walks, still staying on the music vibe, fucking just changing things. But luckily, like I don't. There's definitely a racial thing that happens with the police. I think if I was black or something, they wouldn't have treated me the same way that I've been treated with.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that's wrong as well. I don't know when it's gonna. Do you reckon it'll change?
Um, to be totally honest with you, I don't think it will ever change for 2
It's a
reasons.
shame. Yeah.
Like, some people are raised to be a certain way in it. Like they're born
Yeah,
and bred to be a certain way.
racism's taught. It's not, isn't it? Would you agree with me on this one? Racism's
Yeah,
taught. It's not something that's inbred into a child. If you take a
yeah,
child out of any situation and puts him in another situation, if there's no racism there, then the child won't be racist. But if the
that's right.
child's raised racist, then that's the I don't know what it's called. I'm trying to think sociology words. It's the environment, not and the nature,
The
rather than
nurturing,
the
yeah,
yeah. Because if a child's like mum says, "Oh, that person's bad because of the color of the skin," that's because it's racism. It's being taught in
yeah,
schools. You aren't taught racism. Oh, it's disgusting, man. Because I'm French Italian, yeah, so I've had a bit of shit, like froggy
yeah,
at school and shit like that. But I didn't get any bad shit.
yeah,
But I was always told if someone hits you, you hit them twice as hard as well with violence. Like if someone do you know what I mean? I shouldn't be promoting violence because it's not really a good thing either, violence. But
yeah.
especially with gangs, because I used to have loads of people on my case. But yeah, you always go for the biggest one and hardest hit them, and then the others will run away. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So,
crazy out here, bro. Like I think
yeah,
as a black person, as a black man especially, like I can't speak for the women because I ain't a woman, but as a
yeah,
black man especially, I think that little things like you see like people they can go out, like I don't know if you've ever been out with your mates, gone out for have a drink or whatever, just like go out to have a bit of fun,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I think as anyone other than a black man going out to have a drink and that, it's not so controversial. But then you got to think as a black man, how am I getting home? Because if I drive home in my car, even if I ain't drinking, they're more than likely going to stop me, like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
there's the issue of like police sometimes will abuse their powers. Yeah.
yeah.
So
They
even
they
if
can
you haven't,
stash stuff. So if they've got any weed, they can put it on the thing, and then because that's happened quite a few times in America. Like
yeah.
the officers actually place the weed in the car and say we found this in the car.
Or they just lie. They just say, listen, we think we smell weed. We think we smell
Yeah,
weed. So
I'd
we
say
search in your car. Or they'll come up with any excuse. Do you know what?
with
Your driving was erratic. So
yeah.
we're searching you. We're gonna strip search you. Hold
Do
on.
you know?
You're
Yeah.
go
Do you
go
know
with
the new
it.
laws with the new terrorism laws that they brought in several years ago? They just need suspicion that you're a terrorist to search the motor vehicles. They don't even need a reason anymore. They'll just bring that in and say we've got reason to believe that you're under the Terrorism Act and stuff like that. We've been following you and things like that, and they can just search your car. They don't need a reason anymore.
Yeah,
So they could
literally.
use that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's ridiculous, man.
And I think it's like especially as a black person, I think to an extent, we've been through all of this. We've been through this being bullied and pushed
Yeah.
around, and we're innocent. We haven't done nothing wrong. We've been through all this racism before, and I think there's a point where it's like
It must
I
be
said,
pissing you off a lot.
well, like this is the thing. I'm sitting here right now, and I'm looking at the I'm looking at the paperwork. Yeah, it says
Yeah, yeah.
notification of not to be prosecuted. Yeah, so this is a NFA letter from the police
No
that I'm
further
sitting there.
action.
All right, so I'm sitting here looking at an NFA that I got last night, and I'm saying, hold on, why on earth did they even stop me?
Yeah.
Do you know, like that? And
That's a
then,
piece of power.
all right, this is the thing now where it's like, I'm going to give you a little example of exactly how this went down. So I'm driving, went to a little bar, whatever, didn't even go to the bar, went to the Indian restaurant next door, ate some food. So weren't even drunk, weren't drinking, nothing. Yeah.
Fuck's
So
sake.
decided to go home, drop someone off on the way home. To be fair, they took a little bit long at a cash point. They couldn't find their card. So they went back to the cash point about 3 times. So eventually they find the card. They must have thought they dropped it on the floor, but they're searching for it. Both of us are black, by the way, just for example. So, eventually, like I said, he found the card and we'd driven up the road a little bit, and then he found it when he's in the car. He had a little bag. So gone back to the cash point, used it again. I'm going to admit, maybe that does look dodgy, but a cash point is not dodgy. And really and truthfully, if we're getting cash out of a cash point, it's there's nothing illegal about that.
No,
So
no. Yeah.
watch this. A police car rolls past us. Yeah, we get our undercover police car. It looks like 2 Asian blokes, 2 Indian blokes in the car.
Was it an Astra? Was it an Astra by any chance?
Nah. They was in a Beamer as well. Imagine that.
They always rock Astras, don't they? Do you know what I mean? They always rock the 16-valve Astra.
Come on, Premier.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Sorry, man. Sorry.
I've seen this flipping BMW, this estate drive past me, and I'm looking, I can just see two Asian birds. I can see his hair and I can see his skin tone in it. So I'm thinking two Asian blokes. As they get closer, I look and I see, the top of a walkie-talkie, the little area. I see the top of the area.
No.
Fucking hell. I thought they've driven past, they ain't onto us, innit? We're cool. But we're
Yeah.
time. So by the time I've dropped off my man, he's only down the road, innit? I got in my car, I'm driving home. I see 1 police car, 2 police car, 3 police car.
They got you and sent out a message or all points bulletin.
Broski, when I'm saying to you, by the time I got to the 4th police car, the 4th police car slowed right down and started turning around. I put my foot down. I'm like, fuck this. I'm waiting to inconvenience me now. I'm like, I'm blown in it.
Okay, yeah. You got an Audi by any chance or something? You got Audi, something that flies?
I got the Beamer still, but long
man. Yeah.
I was gone, and I'm thinking that I've got away now. I've gone to the next junction on the motorway.
Did you do a left? Did you do a left?
I did a left, a right, left.
Yeah, right, left. Yeah.
I was gone. So by the time I get like off the motorway to on my way home now, it's like they must have taken my license plate. They knew where I was going. There was police waiting. As soon as I came off the motorway, they was there waiting. Yeah. So bam, imagine I've driven past them going in the opposite direction on a dual carriageway. So I'm thinking like, even at that point, I'm thinking, nah, they're not for me, innit? So as I get further down the dual carriageway, I see a car flying down behind me like lightning speed. I said, yo, big up Violet Sky. I said, yo, this car is moving too quick for that not to be them, innit? Yeah?
Yeah. Sorry, finish the story. Yeah. I got, yeah.
So imagine I get near to where I live now. Well, not too far from where I live anyway. Yeah. And then bam, like I see a police car in front of me, like a Jeep. The guy's jumped out, he's pulled out the spikes and thrown the spikes.
Please tell me it didn't get your fucking wheels.
No, brother, listen, he was so dumb about it, and so slow. I could have driven around the spikes, but once I saw them spikes, I just stopped the car. I said, no, there's nothing this. Yeah. I've hopped out, bam. Now, obviously, a man's been out for the night, innit? Yeah, big ups tomfoolery as well. A man's been out for the night, so I had a 1 or 2 like drinks, and I might have bun the zoo or something, like that. But to be fair, like I know I wasn't intoxicated. I know I wasn't driving weird. In fact, I did smoke a zoot, but much earlier in the day, so I know I was pretty much. But I don't know, like I had a little bit of weed on me. I thought to myself, you know what? They're probably gonna do a swab test, then they're gonna want to arrest me, then there's gonna be a fine. I got smart on them. I took that weed, I crumbled it up in my hand, I jumped out, I threw some weed in my mouth, I chewed that up with some bubble gum. So by the time I've done that on his camera, because they're right at the door trying to pull me out of the car, but I'll just put my hand to my mouth fast. And the guy's like, take that out of your mouth. What you got in your mouth? Spit it out. So I said, listen, it's too late, man. It's gone. I had 1 little bit of weed. It's gone. I've just eaten it now that I'm out of the car. What are you going to do? So then imagine they took me to the station, doing blood tests. They're talking about we're going to send you to court, all of this stuff. They couldn't even get the blood. The sergeant ends up saying NFA, because I'm saying to the sergeant, what was the reason your guy stopped me? Now, when I'm at the side of the road, he's saying to me, he stopped me for failure to stop. Now I'm saying
so he stopped you. So he's stopping you because you didn't stop. That doesn't make sense.
All right. Now hear the joke. I'm saying to the guy, you followed me for at least 3 miles or 4 miles, no sirens on. Yeah. I'm driving slow as hell to show you that I ain't running nowhere. All of this way to then put on your sirens on a single track road where there's nowhere to stop. I'm not stopping in the middle of the whole road.
Nah.
I'll stop somewhere safe, innit? So obviously you call that your spikes for no reason, because no one won't failing to stop. So then they've moved the goalpost. They're saying, okay, if it's not failure to stop, we can smell weed in the car, so we're gonna drug.
But they wouldn't have been able. They wouldn't have been able to get that if they hadn't stopped you, though. So that would be an admissible evidence.
All right.
They wouldn't be. They wouldn't be able to use that as evidence, because if they're saying that after they stopped you, you can say, well, you weren't going. You were going to stop me, but that means you didn't. Do you know what I mean? You haven't got the reason to stop me to bring it up in court, so that evidence goes out the window.
All right. So here's the joke now. He's gone from I failed to stop to
Yeah, to we smelled weed.
we smell weed to this is here the next one. He said, you was driving like you was intoxicated. I believe that your driving was unsafe. So, you know, we're gonna arrest you for that as well. To we're arresting you for driving under the influence of cannabis. Now I'm saying to the guy, hold up, mate. You just saw me eat the cannabis, so you can't do me for driving under the influence of something I ate outside of the car. I'm saying this on his camera. Yeah, I've made sure I'm right on his camera, innit? So I'm saying, okay, driving without due care, you could do me for. If you could prove I was driving without due care, but you can't just say that I'm driving intoxicated. You've got to show it on your camera, innit? So I'm just like giving him back his nonsense in real terms now, and understand I'm not stupid, innit? So as soon as we get to the police station, you see, as soon as I explain my story to the sergeant, a man stops me for one thing, then starts talking about 5 other things. I know the sergeant when I watch that video. That's it, NFA, goodbye.
Yeah.
And that's how we got to be dealing with these police, you know.
There was this, basically, I've got like a huge single road near where I live, yeah, and it's got a speed camera for like, because it's near a school area, it's college. And basically, I saw this Mercedes. It was flying. I'm talking about 80. It was doing about 80 in a 30, yeah. And he was dashing, yeah. And there's this convenience store, and there's like these bollards. I don't know how. It was like, you know, the big end Mercedes, the old school ones.
Yeah.
The ones that are like saloons. He flew and he did it. And then like 5 minutes later, there's a meat wagon guy, and I was going, he is long gone, man. He's long gone. But I thought if he could have ticked it or anything, it was craziness, man. But he was flying. He was literally flying. I couldn't believe it. He was getting away, yeah. But no, man. Yeah. So
you have to be careful, man. You have to be careful.
I don't drive.
There, man.
I don't drive. I'd rather walk. I can't. If I'd be deaf on the roads. I get too pragged. I can't do the changing gears, looking in your mirrors, going straight on, looking at your speedo, looking at the blind spots. It's like 7 things you've got to do all at once. I can't even tap my head and rub my belly at the moment.
But you see what you're saying, yeah. Look at Tom Foolery's message on the screen, yeah.
Oh, okay, wait.
Because which he says, harassment by the police, history repeating itself. Basically, you were stopped because you're a black man in a BMW. And you know what? There was a time when I wouldn't have necessarily agreed with that. But you see, after being in that experience myself and seeing it like firsthand, why on earth would they stop me? I didn't listen. I'm being honest with you, yeah. Like, fair enough, I took longer at a cash point, but the same road I'm coming down, the police have stopped me. I've seen a man fly down that road. I've seen about 3 or 4 cars flying. I'm driving slow, you know. I'm doing the speed limit. Now, these men are flying down the road and you're not stopping them. Why? Because they're not black.
There's still racism in the police force. Yeah. There's racism in the police force.
Like, I'll be honest with you, like, to some extent, yeah, like, I've heard a few people kind of say this, and I've not really been pushing back against it, but I didn't 100% agree with it. But I think after last night, especially, and a few other occasions in the last few months, I'm starting to believe it a little bit that the police are like
abuse their power.
Yeah, and they're like the modern day slavery. Like slavery ended only for us to be under the cosh of the man with the baton and the pepper spray and the gun on his hip.
Well, have you heard about the Lucifer experiment? I think it's called the Lucifer experiment.
No. Basically,
in America, they had like 30 inmates and about 15. Sorry, my kettle's boiling, mate. They had 30 inmates and 15 officers in the prison.
Okay.
And the prison officers beat the shit out of the inmates so bad, it was really bad. Like, and what happened was they switched roles. So they had the inmates being the prison officers. And they had to stop the experiment because the prison officers that were the inmates beat the shit out of the officers, if you know what I mean. And it just got really bad. I think it's called the Lucifer. I'm not sure what it is, but have a look at it. It's really interesting. They did, it was just an experiment, and it got really, really bad. and it's about the people in power. If you give people enough power, they'll abuse it. And yeah. I can't remember. I think it's a Lucifer. I might be getting my wires crossed. I'll have a look in a minute. I'll have a look on YouTube.
I'm looking at something on YouTube right now that says
I'm not sure.
Experiment.
I think it's the Lucifer Experiment.
There is a few different here.
It's probably some next level crap. Like, is it the Lucifer?
I've found some different videos here. Do you know what? I just found something really strange. I found a video that says the Lucifer Experiment. God creates Lucifer as a mediator for free will. I'd like to know who came up with that video. But why good people turn bad? Is that what it is?
Yeah. That's it. Because basically what happened was the good prison guards sort of turned on the inmates. And when the inmates were the prison guards, they had to stop the experiment basically because it was so controversial because the prison inmates just rebelled and just treated the prison officers like shit. It was
so hold on,
crazy.
wait a second. So they had the inmate. Hold on, the people who's been in jail for crimes.
No. It's an experiment. So it's like Schiffer, your name would be Peter Smith. And I'm James Doe. You're a prison officer. I'm an inmate. You have to treat me like I'm an inmate in the prison. So there's a building where they used it. So you treat me how I like. If I'm a nice inmate, you might be nice to me. If I'm a cunt of an inmate, you might just look the other way if I get battered and stuff like that, and you wouldn't protect me or look after me. And then after that, after say the 3 weeks or 4 months of the experiment, it switches over. So that means that I'm the prison officer and you're the inmate. So I can't remember the names I just used, but yeah. So like, because of the way you treated me, if you were nice to me, I'd be nice back to you. But if you're a bastard to me, I'd be like, right, I'll let you get 8 balls. Do you know what I mean? Like with the 8 ball and the sock. Do you get me though? That's that. Do you know what I mean? It's just because in the 70s they did a lot of experiments with mental health and stuff like that. There was this film I saw, and to cure schizophrenia, there was a woman that was in a room full of mirrors, and she sat in the middle, and it was like all her personalities come out. It was really weird. I think it was a film actually, but it was mad. The stuff that Sigmund Freud, it was a psychoanalyst or something. And there's loads of them. They abuse their power, man, because they were allowed to.
Well, it's funny you say this year because there's so much information on this stuff out there. There's so many different takes on it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go through some videos and through a little bit of information that I wanted to show. I've got a couple on YouTube, a couple of Google pages I want to read out, because I think that a lot of these things are linked. Like when we can go right back into slavery and we can see where the consistent links are between the policing, the way they deal with us.
Yeah, but if you look at history repeats itself, and it's repeating itself sort of not as badly, but sort of it's not 1930s America, but there are still places in America where there's like black people are treated as second-class citizens, and it's still happening now because history keeps on repeating itself.
Yeah, because I think what I was basically getting at is when you was when black people were in slavery in the Americas, you had a guy who would be like an overseer then, innit? And they'd be watching, they got a whip and they sit on the horse and they make sure no one runs away, innit? X, Y, Z. And that's exactly what the police are like. It's so weird.
Do you know in the plant, is it called plantains food? In the plantics, they used to sing they used to sing a song to the plow, because they knew that if any criminal that was working on the train lines was escaped, they'd sing songs at night to say like follow the plow, because the plow's a northern star or something. So basically they follow the line and they escape that way through the different Atlantis to escape to freedom.
Yeah.
It was the plow was the constellation they'd have to look for and shit.
Yeah, that's mad. That's mad.
So that it's a bit like the resistance in the war. You get them out at different stages, if you get me. So they get passed on to the next unit to get them out.
Yeah. Because I think that obviously we can't say that, you know, nowadays is exactly the same as, you know, when people were actually in slavery, being whipped, beaten, and brutalized, X, Y, Z. But to some extent, we are still being whipped, beaten, brutalized, pepper sprayed, shot, having ourselves choked out in the streets and dying, you know. So to some extent, it is similar. But I think that the fact that they target us, you know, that's where it becomes, you know, that's the main issue for me. Because I think that you see, if we could see a consistency with the police, all right, if someone's speeding, we don't care what color we're stopping them. But when you just want to stop the black guy, it's like, no, that's wrong. And then everyone else is speeding on the road. The black guy's driving normal, but you stop the black guy. It's like, it gets a point where it's like, no, this is definitely racism, bro. This is definitely modern day slavery.
Yeah.
The only way we're going to escape it, I believe, as black people, is by getting the, you know, the people who ain't black to recognize it more and to adhere to it more.
This is very controversial. You need to get more black policemen, but because if you get more black policemen, you'll have you'll have more of an opinion because you won't be the minority. You'll be trying to get into a sort of a raised minority as opposed to just being a minority. But the culture, like, it's, do you know what I mean? It's a cultural thing. There's not as many black people will join the police force because of,
no. That's not the case.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
I'm gonna break it down to you now so you understand. Okay. You're gonna know why they call me Shifford. You're gonna know why they say I'm that guy. Yeah. Now listen.
Okay, yeah, sorry, brother.
If you was in America, at a particular time in history, what you'll find is the police force was given to the Irish.
Oh, with the gangs at the beginning.
That's right. And certain areas and certain economies were given to certain communities. Just like when you look at the Asian community, everyone's got corner shops. Why? Because they was given the shop, they was given those businesses, they was given that industry.
Yeah.
Now, what did they give to the black people?
Hot, like slave labor.
Exactly. You see my point now. So
you're not gonna, after a couple of 100 years, you're gonna be pissed.
And then the point is,
you don't want to do that. You'd rather have the corner shop and let the Asians do the fucking.
Well, not even that. Remember,
I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that.
These things are institutions, isn't it? So because the police is an institution, it's been given to a particular group to run that institution. Like in America, it was given to the Irish. So the majority of the police are probably going to be Irish. And
but isn't that negative discrimination though?
100%. But 9 times out of 10, you have to understand, because those people own that industry, they're going to bring their people first, innit? They're not going
to get them to keep it. Yeah,
that's right. To keep it in the family.
I apologize for being wrong. I'm so sorry, bro. I'll hold my hands up when I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll say I'm wrong. Right? And I was wrong. So yeah.
And then you're not wrong. You're not wrong in the sense of more black people could join the police. But remember, we're living in a British system, and the British system is majority Caucasian anyway. So there's no way we're going to outnumber the Caucasian man in the police department. But at the same time, you know, they've got their set agenda, just like the Irish in America who run the police. They got their set agenda, and whoever they don't like, they're gonna target.
But why did you have the Italian mafia getting into in sort of the 1930s to 1950s, like Frank Sinatra era? How come you got them controlling the what's it called? The police. Yeah, did they pay them off, or?
To be honest with you, I have no idea. I just know that at some point, I remember this. Even if you watch like certain films like Gangs of New York and Rare Tear, you notice that the police is run by the Irish. Do you understand? And I've seen a lot of historical things like history programs as well as movies and stuff where, you know, they always depict the Irish as having control of the police. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, it's like, all right. Someone said this to me a little while ago. They said Irish people were slaves too. I said, hold up.
Well,
Were
they were in
slaves
the
too.
1600s. They were, because they had they had King James. I think it was King James, and you had King James that went over to Ireland and basically made people pay taxes. And then there was the potato famine and stuff like that, where loads of people died because there was loads of water and rain. But fucking, sorry about swearing. I swear shit loads, by the way. But yeah, you did have the Irish being slaves to the British things. They took over the north part of Ireland, and it got smaller and smaller. Soon you'll get the north part of Ireland. You'll have, in theory, the Catholics will have outpopulated the Protestants. So if it went to a referendum, you'd have basically the whole of Ireland being Ireland because of the population thing. If every Catholic was to vote Catholic or for Ireland, that's
See,
the
now you've
theory.
said that. Now you've said that. Don't get me wrong. I know some really good Irish people. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've got Irish people who have literally family,
yeah,
but I
yeah.
can't trust them all because it's like, how are you gonna come out with this story that you were slaves too, like Me Too kind of
It's
story?
ancestors. It's
You,
ancestors. It's
The
ancestors. It's
Irish
not
were
that.
slaves. The
but
Irish
these
were
lot are
slaves.
running the racist police system. They're the ones
Well,
running the
remember,
racist system.
remember, hello, Vincent. Remember, the Irish had the issue with the potato famine. That was their big issue with the British government allowing them to starve, and a lot of them did. But generally, I just wanted to talk about racism. Before racism, the scourge of
Yeah,
society in the UK was to be poor. Remember?
yeah,
It was a
yeah,
crime to be poor. That's why we had all the workhouses.
yeah.
And then when the working class was established because of the Industrial Revolution,
But
then
yeah,
after
yeah.
the slave trade, then we had it was a crime to be of a different race. And
No,
that's
but
where we are now.
the thing is, though, it was after the
Yep.
Second World War where we were begging for people to come over to
Yeah.
this
But that
country.
was,
We said, please come to this country because we are so poor.
yeah.
We're
But,
so poor. We don't have anyone from the Second World War.
By English pirates at sea.
well, that was to
After a
do with
voyage
the
filled with
Commonwealth
horror
countries.
and
Remember,
death,
the
what's
Queen
referred to
was
as
Queen
some
of the
20
Commonwealth,
and
and
odd Negroes arrived
she
in the New
through the
World
government
and were
let
sold in
out,
a place
come and
now
help the
known as
motherland,
Virginia.
come and help,
Yes, enslaved
you know,
Africans
Yeah,
the
were in the
UK,
New
and
World
that's when
before
people
Europe
from
developed.
India, from
These few
Asia,
Africans
from
survived
the
the
yeah,
perils of
Caribbean
the
came
transatlantic
to
yeah.
the
slave
UK, and we came
And
world before
as
Europe
UK
developed.
citizens, remember?
These
That
but
was the
but
trickery.
before Europe
That was the
then
developed
trickery. We were
yeah,
already UK
were in the New
citizens. And
arrived
then
in the
when
New
we
we
got
got
here,
and were sold
yeah,
in
when
a
the
you
place
wind
yeah,
rose,
known as
they
Virginia.
wanted us to
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah,
apply
Were in the New
yeah.
citizenship,
They
World
but
said
we
before
already
Europe
were.
developed.
yeah,
We already were, because we were part of the
yeah.
Commonwealth. So that was the
I know.
trickery
Yeah.
there. That was the
Yeah, it's
trickery
very
there.
underhand, but the government is underhand anyway by default because they're like the
Well, we
higher
have
you get, the more corrupt you are.
well, we have to be
They are.
careful when you talk about the government. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
it's a collective, because really it's not the government, it's the civil servants. That's what
Yes,
I
and they're
always
all there's
annoys me. They never
22,000
change.
going.
Yeah, they never change. The civil servants never change. The party might change, but the civil servants remain the same. And those are the
Yeah.
people that are writing the policy. It's just the government that's maybe negotiating it and bringing the
Do you do,
legislation to the public. But it's the civil servants, the faceless civil servants, that hold the power.
do you know who wrote the Magna Carta?
No.
Because that's the books that are still in Parliament, and that's what the Commonwealth is based on, I believe. I might be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll hold my hands up. But that's when that's like the books that they have that divides the two parties, the in government and the opposition.
Okay.
And it's apparently the oldest set of books ever written. I think it was written.
I've heard
I
of
think it was.
Magna Carta.
I think it was King James again, because King James wrote up a doomsday book, and in that it had tax for absolutely everything. It was any bit of land, because for £1,000 you can buy a.
Well, that came about with the enclosure laws before the Industrial Revolution, before the poor could use any land that was free to graze their animals on. And then what happened was the nobles decided to build fences on on land. It was common land. They basically just commandeered the land and said you can no longer graze your animals on this land, and that's
For
how
free?
the enclosure. Yeah, for free. That's how the enclosure laws came about.
It's all tax, isn't it? It's a joke.
It also tax. But there is a bigger picture that I wanted to bring to Schiffer's just out of curiosity. And
Yeah,
I just
go on.
wondered if Schiffer, if you've noticed this distinction in the UK now where we're calling people black and we're calling other people brown people.
Yeah, 100%. I've noticed that from years ago.
I,
But it's very apparent in the Conservative Party, especially what's going on with the Conservatives and the candidates that are standing up for it now. And I noticed that when Boris Johnson was Prime Minister, he incredibly racist. Do you remember the things he said? These pickaninnies
Yeah.
with watermelon smiles and all of the insulting things that he said
that's
about
bad,
us.
man. I didn't
You
hear
know,
that. That's
all of the
bad.
insulting things that he said. You know, he used the word pickaninny. You can't get more racist than that. You know,
Oh, no.
I mean, that's just the most. People think nigger is offensive, but pickaninny is so steeped in colonialism that it's just appalling. But
What was it?
Yeah.
Sorry,
pickaninny.
pickaninny. That's terrible.
That's
I don't-
how he described black people.
Where
And
did
now
it come? Where does the word originate from?
It's a
Is it
slave
di-
term. It's a slave
Oh,
term
it's
for
a
the young
derogatory.
babies. Young babies.
I don't want to say the word that. There's Western Oriental gentlemen, which obviously, if you close that down, that's bad. And there's the marmalade jars. Do you remember
Yes,
those?
gollywogs. Yeah.
Yeah,
gollies,
because
gollies.
I hate
Do you know
I hate
what?
racism so hard.
But do you know? Let me just be a representative of black people. We're not offended by these words. What we are is we get angry that you think you can say these words to us and then we'll react. Because if you call someone a nigger, they will laugh. Because that
I
doesn't hurt
punched.
them.
I can't.
That's my opinion.
If someone
And as
said
a
that
black
to me,
woman,
like,
as a black
no.
woman, I would laugh. I would laugh.
I
It's
would.
like,
I
it's
can't
like-
do that. I've got like with me. If someone calls me a wop, I try and bite their face off because I get so offended by it. Because
how
I've got I get so angry because it's like what I'd never intentionally make someone want
Feel
to insult me.
uncomfortable.
I wouldn't intentionally put myself in a situation for someone to call me froggy either. I
but
can't take.
you've
It's
got to
just. It's just.
remember that- Why
If
would you
they're
give
jealous.
people the power to offend you?
Yeah.
If I mean, once you take the heat out of a word, it's like people on
Yeah.
YouTube call me a bitch, and I just say, okay,
Yeah.
I'm a bitch.
now
Now what?
Yeah.
Now what?
Yeah.
Now
Yeah,
what
you've
can
got.
you call me?
Yeah, you've
like
got
you
to
take-
turn it on them. Yeah,
Yeah, you just got to own it and take the heat out of it. It doesn't.
and
And
just
yet, whenever
yeah,
you
they're-
use the word cracker, people suddenly get really offended.
yeah,
It's like, but
yeah,
I can say, if you can say the N word, I can say the C word.
yeah.
You know, but the point I was making with Schiffer is that we in the UK, and I'm only talking about the UK, there is this. It's like the Asian community, the Pakistani, Bengali, Indian community now identify as brown. Now, when I look at those equal ops forms, Schiffer, I don't see brown on there.
Yeah.
I see Black British, I see Indian, I
Irish,
see Bengali,
Irish,
or
yeah.
whatever. What I don't see is brown.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
want to
I
know where this brown terminology came from, because I think it came through from Boris Johnson's government with him hiring a couple of Asian people in his cabinet. And he wanted to call that diversity because he's got
Yeah.
brown people. And I
Working
think
for
that's where it stems
yeah,
from.
yeah.
Because black people aren't good enough, okay?
Mm.
Because we're the criminals, we're the single parents, we're the ones that smoke weed, we're the ones that are in prison, we're the bad ones. But suddenly, the brown people, the Asians, they go to university, they've got the shops, they've got businesses, they're accountants. And it's like, we've now got this middle ground of the Asian community that is now complicit in its racist behaviour towards black people.
How would they fill out the form if they're not? Would it be other? Because
this
they
is
can't
what- this
be
is what I
white and
want
they
to know.
can't be. They
That's
can't
the
be
point.
brown. If there's
That's what I'm
no
saying.
category to put them in,
Well, they'll put
which is
other
bad.
and write brown,
Yeah.
I'm assuming. But I just want to know where this came from.
I can be honest with you, and say to you that in my opinion, you're 100% right in it. Like at the end of the day, nobody wants to be classified the same as us, innit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Bottom line. Now, there was a time where racism was prevalent. It was running rampant in this country, yeah. And it didn't matter if you was Asian or you was African brown skinned. We was all getting lumped together, and they would have loved to team up with us for a little bit of extra protection. But you see, the moment them days have passed, and now we've got certain laws, certain things in place. The Asian man want to do their own thing, certain of them, not all of them, because some of them, you know, they still appreciate their darkness and their blackness. But majority, unfortunately, you know, don't want to be seen anything as being anything like black. They want to be more like white. You know, like that. They want to be more in league with the system,
More accepted,
which is, you know, not only demonic but definitely racist. And it's like, hold on, you Asian guys, you want to get in with the system that was calling you what terrorists and all sorts of, just moments ago. And it's like, okay, you lot wait, when your time comes again, next time I ain't backing you. Yeah, because
the thing is,
you lot love ride the back of the beast, and then when the beast turns on you, now it's the problem.
You want to use the lingo. You want to use the Caribbean lingo. You want to date black girls. You want to dress like black guys. The amount of Asian guys that I when I'm in my car that are playing hip hop music, I'm not hearing. I do occasionally hear the Indian Bollywood music, which I quite enjoy. But the point is, you still want the flavor of the black culture, but you want to be separate from us.
Yep.
And the only other people that call mixed or called brown are people in South Africa, coloured. So are we going back? Are we going backwards, Schiffer, do you think?
I think so, because you know, it's like if we look at people from, say, like Polynesians then, or Australians and Fijians and XYZ, you know, I think Aboriginals. I think they've got a similar confusion over there, because if we were to go back in time, most of them would have just identified as black. But when we come into this day and age, someone's definitely pushing a brown agenda. Someone is definitely, because like, I'm telling you, I've got mates who are from there, innit? Like, and they identify as, they're like, yeah, straight, I'm black. And you know what? My people are watered down. So if you look at my grandparents, XYZ, they're even darker than me. They're darker than you. They're black. But these new ones, a lot of them don't class themselves as that, because they're saying there's mixed race, there's this, there's that, and now they call themselves brown, innit? Or they call themselves.
Well, it is, because in the Caribbean we used to have the Caribou, the Coolie,
the Coolie,
the Coolie, and they were Indians and blacks, weren't they? Indian and black mix.
All right.
Is that
but
right?
If you was Coolie,
so where are they now? Are they now biracial?
No, this is the thing. If you're Coolie, it's different. As a Coolie, you're still black, but you just got some type of you know, Coolie look to you, innit? You got the soft hair,
you might want to check that, because they might have changed that definition now. If they can pass for brown.
You saying this, you're probably right to some extent, you know. And then think about it like this: you got the bleaching thing in Jamaica as well. The All Vibes Cartel, Vibes Cartel is brown, isn't it? Him not black, and it's brown.
Is patois still spoken, like broken? Because like that's like because I'm French, like I understand like not Yardi or anything, but I understand broken French patois, because it's like a cross between Caribbean and French, isn't it?
The French weren't very nice during slavery times either.
They were horrible. They were they were disgusting. Do you know what? They're even worse. They've caused more wars than Britain, I think, unfortunately.
The modern day Frenchman is a little bit shady.
Of course they are. They're invading like places in Africa and shit still. They're still going over there causing wars. That's why they're so hated in France.
You killed your royal family, and since then, liberty, equality, fraternity, you've been taking that to the max.
I might just say, I'm only French by blood. By like raising and upbringing, I'm completely 100% British.
Do you speak French?
Un petit peu, merci et tu?
Oh, but with an English accent. Do they accept you in France?
Would they? They probably hang me or something, man. I've done some naughty shit, but my past will catch up to me, I swear. No, I was lucky enough to, on a serious note, I was lucky enough to know my great grandma and my great auntie and my nan, and they were in the resistance, and they used to get the English fighter pilots out on the resistance line.
Yeah.
And that's how she met my granddad, and they had 7 kids together. One of them obviously being my mum. And I've got nothing but love. She didn't quite make 100 years old. She'd got a letter from the Queen.
Yeah, she would have.
But the thing is, she got a letter from Franklin D. Roosevelt saying thank you for
Okay.
getting our American soldiers out. And there's pictures and things where I was with my nan and that, and she used to say to me, "Il est beau," which means you're beautiful and that. And she's like my darling. She was just such a nice person. And
But
we
you
used
should
to,
still embrace your French ancestry.
yeah,
Even if, you know,
yeah,
even if parts of it are shady, you should still
yeah,
embrace it because, you know,
yeah.
it's part of the
It's
genetics of your family.
yeah, definitely, yeah. Even if we do still do stupid shit, I do stupid shit.
Well, my daughter she's back from Montreal, but she had the worst experience in Montreal.
Is that Canada?
Yeah, in Canada. Yeah. She went for an internship.
Yeah.
So she left the UK to spend 12 weeks in Canada through
Yeah.
her university because she's a second year law student. So she got an internship, an international internship for the summer. She
Wow.
got there and they didn't know she was coming.
Oh my days.
And, you know, everything's in French. Nobody, you know,
Yeah.
it was like, and the person she was supposed to be working with, the professor, was in Australia with a 15-hour time difference.
Oh no.
And it was like, they just said, you know, to my daughter, who is autistic but high functioning, oh, well,
Yeah.
obviously you're too needy if you can't work on your own.
Oh
So-
shit.
So you know, she spent she got a grant, but it's $3,500, but still the flights, you know,
Yeah.
just leaving
Yeah,
the
that's
UK
rude,
and
man.
going to a country on
Yeah.
your own, booking your own accommodation. She thought she was being part of this research project. When she
Yeah.
got there, they were like, "Oh, we didn't know you were coming." It's like,
The-
what?
The thing is
talking
even
about this for like 4 months.
the thing that's even worse is it's Canadian French,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah,
different.
it
It's
is.
different
Yeah,
to
it
normal
is.
French. You can't even
Yeah.
read it like normal
No,
French.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like- It's completely
Exactly.
backwards.
Exactly. I made her come home. She spent 2 weeks on holiday and then she came home. I said, "Nah, fuck that for
Oh,
a game
yeah.
of soldiers. That's wrong."
Yes.
Because
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
when Mum Power wanted to get on there and slap people.
Well, no, but the thing is,
Come on, I'd have been headbutting
She's
someone.
only 21. I mean, and that's a
Oh,
long way
not
to go
lovely.
for a girl on her own. 21-year-old
Fuck
girl
that,
on her own. That's
Is
a
that
long
3,000
way.
miles? Is that
Yeah, that's
3,000
rude.
miles?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, I was complaining, you know, and they were like, "Oh, can you send us an email in French and then we'll translate it? We don't speak English." I was like, "What?"
In French Canadian.
Yeah, they're very
That's
francophile, but yeah, Schiffer, so she's back now. But yeah,
That's
so
good.
I won't be allowing that again.
It's funny you say
No.
that, yeah, because I've got some cousins in Canada and they've told me some stories about not going to certain parts,
Yeah,
especially where they speak French.
Don't go to Quebec or Montreal. I love Canada.
Yeah,
I've been there
that was
about
one
4
of them,
or 5 times.
You're right, Quebec.
You don't go
They said,
Quebec.
listen, don't go down there, bro.
Don't.
It's
Yeah.
That's
not
like
good.
me. That's like me
or
going
don't
to
go there
New
for a holiday.
Orleans.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
even their
if I went
Starbucks,
to.
everything is French. Everything, and even the McDonald's is French. It's just everything is French. French.
But the thing is, it's not French because it's Canadian French.
Well, no, it's not French. Do you know why? Because it belongs to the Native Americans. They stole it.
They stole it. Oh, fucking hell, yeah.
But you know,
Of course they did. Yeah. Was that the Chinoo? Chinoo is one of the tribes.
It's really weird that the original races, the original people, the original natives in this world, you know, like Native Americans, you know, like the Aborigines. Why are they seen as second class, third class citizens?
Because of the hierarchy. A hierarchy. People who are colonized and who eat food with knives and forks think they're above the savages, as it were. Do you know what I mean? People that aren't like. It's weird. It's like colonialism, isn't it? It's. Do you know what I mean? It's a very backward way. It's not. It's
But
not.
the thing is,
It's not
I think
logical.
I think it's a very Caucasian thing. I think
It
it's
is,
a
that's-
Caucasian
well, yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I know this is going to sound really, really silly, but I really believe it. When you come from a country like Africa or from the Caribbean, you've got the sun, you've got the sea, you've got the food, you've got the gold, you've got nice weather, you're living it's a hard life, but it's an easy life. You know, it's regulated by the weather. Okay, you're not going to look to explore and exploit other people. Okay,
Because
you
you've got
might go to
everything there.
you might
Yeah.
go to another tribe and try and get a bit of their land or some of their animals or some of their women. But what you're not going to do, is build a big ship, sail across an ocean. You don't know what's on the other side, and conquer
Yeah.
that country.
Yeah. Well, the thing is with
What do you
guns
think,
as
Shifa?
well. Oh, shit, sorry.
I think to some extent you're right, because you know, people who live under volatile conditions, they're definitely going to be more volatile to some extent, because you know, if you haven't got nothing, you got no food, and then we got food over here. You might still, just like someone who's hungry into the modern day, they might go in Sainsbury's and steal some food. Do you feel where I'm coming from? But I think that the level and the extent that they go to is, you know, it's inhumane.
Clearly, have you ever been to Portugal?
That's what I'd say on it. You know, like,
Yeah.
what do you think,
have you ever
Sensei?
been?
Do you think that they could be more
have you ever-
humane?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, right, you've got to look at this from hundreds of years ago, because it hasn't happened in the past 50 years. It may have done, but but the thing is, like, when you have aristocracy, and when at the time of the aristocracy, in the times of King James, they were thought to have been sent by God to be rulers of a country. They thought like in France
This
as
is
well.
in the
They
last
thought
100 years, though. We're talking about the last 100 years.
Yeah.
Our
but I'm saying
grandparents were alive when these things were happening.
No, I think it happened a long time ago, because well, you got the people who
Maybe
explored
it started,
like Sir Francis
started a long
Drake.
time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's say
You got Sir
started, not
Francis
happened a
Drake.
long time ago.
Clearly,
Let's
yeah.
started.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it
Yeah.
started a long time ago, but basically you do have people that judge and things like that, and you still had capital punishment as well. So you had a different judicial system, but basically you're right with the sort of with the tribes and that. You might like ask people and use diplomacy, or you'd go to war with them. And then of course it escalated, and then the rifle was born, and it was all about who's got the biggest rifle, or who's got the best army, or the best maintained army to sort of conquer the nation.
Well,
Does that make sense?
it
All
does,
right.
but
All right.
yeah.
Ain't that a Viking mentality though? Who's got the biggest weapons to kill the most people? And then it's like, to some extent, you see, from my perspective, I'd have to say that, you know, what we're calling Caucasian people
No,
have
hold on,
only
Shifa.
learned how to
Hold on.
be.
Shifa, hold on, correction there.
Go on.
Who's got the weapon that
Go
can, the single weapon that can kill the most people? Because Indians and Africans, we've had spears, bows and arrows. It's the advanced community colonists that had the guns. So one gun could kill 20
10 people.
There is an argument to say. There is an argument to say that maybe they learned how to make these things from us, but either way, we didn't mass produce them. And even if we said, all right, going to Indian stuff, Burmanas, it looks like weapons of mass destruction, but guess what? They still weren't mass producing them. So
China
were,
were.
Maybe to some extent, but when we get to the Caucasian man, we have to understand the Chinese man and the Caucasian man are one and the same to black people. And to some extent, you know, you guys have only really learned you've only learned humanity in the last 100 years. You've only learned, still learning how to be human, and how to, you know, to look out for your fellow man, as they would say, because, you know, the history is so volatile. It's just murder, rape, murder. Even your own people.
When you go to the British Museum in London, and it's really funny because the whole history is rape, murder, pillaging.
Vikings.
That's it.
It's
like
crazy.
We raped, we murdered, we pillaged.
And then we'll take all their stuff.
I mean, every single exhibit has come through those means.
It's nicked. It's got an IOU.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, I just find that really funny because every exhibit says, "Oh, this artifact was discovered in such and such a country." Okay, so why is it in the British Museum? Oh, this item came from this war. Okay, so why is it in the British Museum?
Have you heard of Crystal Palace, when they made it the most extravagant thing, and they had elephants there, they had lions there, and it was the talk. It was because of the high I can't say a word. Aristocracy, all the higher people in the hierarchy of a triangle.
Well,
That's what I'm
that's why I
saying.
said
The
that's why.
top two. Sorry, yeah, carry on.
Well, that's because the history of the United Kingdom, or ununited, because we're not really united, are we? The history of the United Kingdom was the crime was to be poor. That was what everything was set up on.
Can I just say, I
when
thought
we
it
had
was.
the industrial revolution, when we had the industrial revolution and we had slavery, sugar and slavery underwrote the cost of the industrial revolution.
I would say that it's more like the history, like of what I'm thinking in my head to what you're saying. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well,
It's
just,
more like
just
it's
bear
more.
in
It's,
mind, bear in
yeah.
mind that the majority of people that are in the Caribbean, for example, have a surname that is not of African origin. They have a plantation name.
Okay. Because I thought it was
So
more sort of
Brown,
like,
White,
yeah.
McPherson,
I thought, but
everyone's surname came from a master.
I thought it's more sort of like know your place, if you know what I mean. That is a horrible saying and a horrible load of words to put together. But it's sort of like know where you are. I control you. You're my property. That's why tattoos. That's why tattoos were sort of introduced to sort of.
Well, that's kind of, you're making it sound like marriage, because marriage is all about chattel. Chattel, that's it. Well, it is, isn't it? That's what marriage was invented for. Women could not inherit from their fathers, from the estate. They married, and their husband owned their property. You belong to your husband. That's why the women have the husband's name, because you are now the property of your husband.
Yeah. And it goes through sickness and stuff.
You know, I mean, this is just the evolution of the modern man. It's not evolution of mankind. It's just the evolution of the modern man. And the I suppose the little prisons that they put us in, so that we continue to do as we're told.
Can I just say, I'm sorry if I said things that are a bit.
Go on.
I'm just going to say sorry if I upset anyone with what I say. It's like I try to get a lot of information out.
No, you're
very,
good.
like,
You're good.
You're not upset. No one's upset.
You're all right.
No, that's cool. I just want to say, like, I don't want to piss people off or say things that upset people, because I don't. That's not my aim.
But why would you say that about yourself? You're sharing information that people want to hear. It's interesting.
But I've done it before. I've done it before, and I've got battered for it.
Well, that's maybe different chat rooms have different rules. Yeah, but you know what? I found what you said very interesting.
We're not like that over here.
Cheers.
And I think it's interesting too. And I think you see what's really interesting about this conversation, is where you lot have gone with it. It's so controversial. Like, for instance, we could talk about things like in the Americas, they say they call us African Americans, black people in the Americas. But what they don't tell you is a lot of the so-called Indians that were in the Americas were also being enslaved. And what they don't tell you is that at some point in history, what they started doing was amalgamating the two. So regardless of whether you was from Africa or you was originally from America, they would just call you black now. They're just calling you African, because they want to eradicate your land rights. And a lot of those Africans and so-called Indians were amalgamated into each other as well. A lot of them were having relationships, having kids with each other, X, Y, Z. So a lot of us are still going to have that heritage, but they only want to connect us to our African heritage. And I think that that's part of the cage. That's part of the slavery system. Because if you want to keep me enslaved in my own land, you have to make me believe that it's yours.
Yeah. Can I just say, jump a few, maybe 100 years, maybe 150? The reason the crack epidemic happened as well was to abolish anyone because they set up the ghettos and they weren't too bad as they started out. If I'm looking at the right information I've been given, I may be wrong, but basically when the ghettos before they were the projects and the ghettos, they were social housing, and then crack was introduced, and it was basically to kill off and genocide and the entire nation, basically. Or the entire black African community. Am I right?
I think a lot.
Them times there, crack was fine.
Yeah, but do you know what I think? I think there is one question that people don't ask, which I like to ask, is why are so many people afraid of black people?
Because
Why?
Good question,
Why
because
man.
they're strong and they keep on.
every century there has to be a new way to condemn the black man and the black woman? Why are they so afraid of us? They don't do it to the Chinese, to the Indians. They don't do it to anyone else. They only do it to black people. They take away the man. They incarcerate him. They introduce drugs. They introduce, alcohol, liquor into poor communities. You go into a poor community in the UK, and there are poorer communities. I won't say poor. I say poorer. Okay, and you'll see a betting shop. You'll see off license. You'll see a corner shop. Yeah. You won't see a library. You won't see a college, but you will definitely see betting shop after betting shop after betting shop, followed by
And alcohol.
Poundland. Do you know what I mean? It's why do they still ghettoize black people?
I can answer that. I think I can
Good.
answer that one, sis.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is something quite recent. I've come to this realization within the last year or two. I should have noticed this years ago, though. Like black people, I think we're the only people who can influence masses of people with no power
Yes.
whatsoever.
Through our music,
And if
through
we,
our creativity.
all right,
Yeah.
and if we're that powerful that we can influence millions of people without having no power, then that's scary to
It's
whoever's
true.
at the top, because they're like, don't make these people get an inch because they're gonna take 5 miles. We're done out here.
And you know what? That's like a light bulb in my head, because yes, I totally see that now.
But
And
I
that's
think also,
crazy.
like, you see, even what my man said, what 10 City said, like reflecting on that, he said, back in the day, they used to give out the cracks and they created the crack epidemic, yeah? But the thing is,
Yeah.
crack wasn't a problem when it was getting people to fight their wars or, getting people to just do whatever they want them to do without asking any questions.
But crack
Crack
comes
only
from
became
cocaine. So they didn't even
all
give us
right,
cocaine. They gave us, a bicarbonate of soda, water, and
that's
cocaine,
right,
and that's what it is. And I learned to make
that's
that
right,
from the Home Office, because I used to
all
work
right.
with them.
Now, watch
But
this. Is the
I
crack
wrote
really
the
only became a
anarchist.
problem. Hold on 1 second. The crack
Mhm.
only really became a problem when they realized all of the crackheads are like, fuck the police, fuck the government.
Yes.
We don't. As soon as they was anti-establishment, crackheads are an issue now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
before then, was crackheads an issue? Was they arresting people for that? No, they weren't. To be honest.
Yeah.
Same with the
Have you
weed
seen
thing. Think about it.
Yeah.
have you seen
Well,
American
why are so many
Gangster?
people?
Oh, sorry.
Why are so many people in America in prison for possession of weed, selling weed, and why now it's not even illegal in every single state? Shouldn't those
Exactly.
people be released?
They're not gonna
It'll
release
take
them.
time. It'll take time. It'll take time. In every state, eventually, it will
Well,
be
every day that you're
decriminalised.
you know what? Let's not go. We should be very careful what we say about America,
The,
because America's
the,
going through some weird times right now.
the thing is, I'd like to understand this. Imagine if you're in a state that has legalized cannabis, but when you were put in prison, the prison basically said to you, "You're in prison because it's illegal." Are you charged while it
If you
was illegal, or are you set free because the laws changed?
Well, the law isn't retrospective, so
What does that mean?
you
Because I don't know law.
retrospective
I don't know law.
meaning is that it's not
Now
backwards.
you'd
It
be
doesn't go
charged at your
backwards.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, that'd be
Yeah, you
so
would have been
peak.
charged at your time, and your charge would still stand because of the time
Yeah.
period, innit?
That's
And you'll still
If
have
you
a
was
record.
charged at a time where legal, yeah, if it was legal at the time, you wouldn't have been charged. But if it was
Yeah.
illegal at the time when you got caught, they're holding you. You're not coming out of that jail, bro.
That
And
is
you're
so.
going to have
I
that as
feel
a
for that.
And
criminal
that's a tragedy.
conviction. Yeah.
Would
Yeah, all of that.
would it say on the street? Would it say on the sheet? Would it say charged for cannabis possession on this date? So you
Yeah,
could
it
go
will,
to your
obviously. Yeah.
so,
Yeah,
so
it
you
will.
could technically, in theory, you could go to your new employer and say, well, unfortunately, I did have this X, Y, and Z, but the law changed.
Well,
So
not really, because you might be one of those people that goes to the wrong employer that just thinks weed is just wrong, and you're
yeah.
fucked.
You just
Do you
have
know
to
what I
go
mean?
to a
And remember,
go to a weed farm.
when you've been I think if there's any Americans listening, they'll clarify. But if you've been convicted and served time in a prison in America, you can't vote then, can you? They
Yeah, I
take
don't
away
think you
your
can.
right to vote. So you can't have a gun and you take away your right to vote.
Oh, you can get a gun in America for having mental health problems.
Yeah,
You'll still be able to
yeah,
get.
but I'm just saying legally, you can
Oh.
you can be insane and get a gun, but you can't be an ex-convict and get a gun.
Do you know this? Like in the UK, because I've been sectioned many times. I don't want
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
necessarily.
whoa,
It's
whoa,
not
whoa, whoa,
necessarily
whoa. Pause. Wait a second. No. You let her get away with that one. Wait a sec. Hold up. Run that by me again. Hold on. If you got a criminal conviction, you can't get a gun license. But if you're schizophrenic, you can get a gun license. Talk to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Help me.
yes.
Help me. Hey,
Yeah.
hey.
Yes.
But the
Hey.
thing is,
Look at that young shooter. He had one of the shooters. They had mental health problems, but he still went and got a gun.
yeah, you don't even need a driving
That's
license
fucked.
so you can get a gun. But the thing is,
So bear that in
Yeah.
mind, Schiffer. If you're planning any holidays in America,
be careful.
wear body armor.
You got
Shit.
you got mentally ill people walking around bipolar with a gun.
Yeah,
Not just a gun, not just a revolver. I'm talking about
AKs.
semi-automatic.
Guns.
yeah,
Oh my God.
AKs.
Hey, listen, I'm going on.
No. But that's the thing. When I was in my psychiatric unit, one of the times, your right to vote is taken off you, and in one of the years when I was inside, you are unable to vote in a general election. You have that
when
right
you're in
taken away
prison,
from you.
you can vote in a general election.
No, you
there
can't
was
when you're in a psychiatric unit.
not
when
in
you're
a psychiatric. Not in a psychiatric. Not in a psychiatric.
Yeah.
But if you are in prison in the UK, you're just in prison, not a psychiatric unit.
Yeah.
You can vote, because in the last general election, there was a big campaign to try to get prisoners the right, to be able to vote in the prison.
May I ask you a question? Why is someone who's doing a crime, why are they allowed to vote, but someone... Because do you remember Lord Sutch?
Yes.
Rest in peace. Basic to Lord Sutch, that was. Basically, he had the Monster Ravy Looney Party, didn't he?
Yep.
So what I don't understand is, how can people in prison who have done a crime or whatever,
because
how can they vote when a psychiatric person can't?
Well, because when you have a psychiatric episode, then you're not in your sound mind, and one of the obligations to be able to vote is that you are of sound mind. So when you're in a psychiatric unit, your rights are taken away from you, aren't you? Because you're seen as a danger to yourself and society.
Well, there can be other reasons as well.
Yeah,
but that's the two main ones.
Yeah, we know that, but I mean, that whole section in people is I understand for some people it is right. But for some people who are just autistic, it is not right.
Yeah, I've seen some bad
treatment. And not just that. Why is a policeman allowed to section you on a hold for 72 hours?
72
when they're not doctors.
Hold.
When they're not doctors.
Well, you have to be assessed. That's one of the things. You have to be assessed by at least one doctor, if not two.
When they've got you at the unit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mental health is a real thing in this country, and people that have
why do they target
issues,
black people? Why do the mental health seem to always target black people as well? I've never understood this. Yeah, because I know plenty of black guys.
Well, for the first
apparently,
thing, because they say that black people are disadvantaged, and what they say is we're living in a foreign culture. That's a reason. We often have low-paid jobs. That's a reason. We have a dysfunctional family. That's a reason. We smoke weed. That's a reason. They may not be real reasons, but those are the reasons that they give themselves. That they'd say those are the reasons why we're more likely.
But 3 of those reasons aren't necessarily our fault. So who needs to take responsibility for that? Because if we're impoverished, majority of us, it ain't because we took away all of our wealth. It's because the people who's owning this country took away all of our wealth. So you have to create the solution to that problem. And the solution can't just be to throw us in madhouses, because if we go back to slavery time, ain't that exactly what they did with the so-called Indians? They would, when they got the Indians to or the so-called Indians to disband their tribal things and become part of the society, what they would do is put them into these mental homes and care homes. where they're
Yeah.
supposed to be retaught how to live in society. And it's like, hold on,
But
where
hold
did
on a
these
minute,
people go? Where
Schiffer.
did they disappear to?
Schiffer, but hold on, Schiffer. Just remember, if you were Irish and you were a woman and you got pregnant, you would be put in a madhouse. Before the 60s, if you were pregnant and a single woman in the UK, you would be put in a hostel for women and be seen as the lowest of the low in this country. So this is a country that's very good at locking up
Yeah.
people.
May I just
Yeah.
say something, right? There's different levels of the psychiatric state. There's low level, medium, and high, and then there's criminally insane, which is a joint of the two. With low level security, you might go to a psychiatric unit, have your own room,
Yeah.
and you'd have like 3 meals a day. Like you wouldn't be allowed shoelaces. You wouldn't be allowed to
Yeah.
shave on your own.
You might have
Then you've got
one-to-ones. Yeah.
Yeah, then you might have a suicide watch if you're suicidal. Then you've got medium secure, which will have gates round. And then with the high secure, you'll be in the middle of nowhere. So if you do escape, you'll have to get over high walls
Or
and
you can
stuff
be
like
in
that.
a PICU unit or a forensic unit. I know, because I worked at a psychiatric hospital.
You won't be able to get out of some of those because they're just literally impossible to
Well,
get out
hold on a
of.
minute. I think.
No, I mean illegally. I don't mean
Hold
through
on.
the system.
No. You are allowed out, because even if you are in a PICU unit, you are allowed time out on the grounds. Springfield Hospital, haven't they had 3 people that were patients that were in forensic units, and they were allowed out? They were
I didn't
allowed
know
out
that.
into the grounds. One of them, a man stabbed somebody. I think there've been 3 murders. 3 murders from Springfield Hospital. One inpatient stabbed a nurse and murdered the nurse in the ward.
Jesus Christ.
And 2 other patients were out in the grounds and murdered people.
Fuck's sake.
You know,
So-
my only issue with this,
Yeah.
see this whole mental health thing, yeah, my only issue is this. Like, if a person hasn't committed a crime, they can still lock them up like that.
Yes, it's on a section 3.
Yeah.
6
Well,
months you get sectioned. You don't get out. You're not allowed. I've been in as a voluntary patient, section 3, and other ones as well. I've been
May
in
I ask
isolation.
what you were in for? Do you have a mental health condition, or did you just have a psychotic episode?
I've got both. I've got schizoaffective, so it's cross between bipolar and schizophrenia.
Okay.
And then on top
and are
of
you
that,
medicated for that?
Yes, I am. I get medicated.
Are you on lithium?
No, I'm not. Thank God I'm not on lithium.
Okay.
I'm so happy I'm not on that. But basically, I get what was I saying? I can't remember what I was saying. Yeah.
Bipolar and schizoaffective.
And basically it's psychosis, drug-induced psychosis, harmful level. So it's not like a recreational. It's literally like sniffing ethanol and stuff like that. I used to do some crazy shit.
Do you know why you did it? Did it? Is it because you had trauma? You don't have to go into detail.
Yeah.
Did you have trauma in your childhood?
Well, I'm adopted, so I've got that. But I do have other stuff on top of that, and I think an ex-girlfriend hit it on the head with me as well. She said what I was trying to do with my illicit drug use was put a bandage on a septic wound and keep on putting on dressings, and it just made it more septic, and eventually the arm had fallen off because it'd be so bad. But she was a very good influence on me. It's just a shame I didn't listen to her. But I've changed a lot in I've been taking drugs for 25 years now, so it's I'm learning now that it's not benefiting me, and I need to change, and I have changed.
But don't you think it's weird that we're living in a society, a Western society, where pharmaceutical drugs are just an everyday occurrence? Like there's a significant proportion of people in the Western world on pharmaceutical drugs, and yet if you go out into Africa, and I mean into the real Africa, the plains of Africa, the tribes people don't have times to be depressed. They don't have times to be. They don't have bipolar. They don't have schizoaffective disorder.
Is that like another form of slavery in itself, though, where these people literally become food for the system?
Yes.
That. They become someone's work, so someone can eat food. Do you understand?
Because pharmaceutical companies don't cure; they just treat.
The amount of money that's in the pharmaceutical industry is trillions.
Yes,
It is so much money.
it
Do you know
is.
in America, what's that big Grand Central Park? They have in there supposedly what's the antidepressant, Xanax or
Yeah,
Prozac? They have
yeah,
that in the
Prozac. Yeah.
water. They have Prozac in the water. So when they drink the water, it gives them a
But hold
high.
on, don't worry about that. Do you not know that in the United Kingdom, the water that comes out of your tap is recycled 7 times?
What is
So that
filtered or recycled?
Yeah, 7 times.
recycled 7 times. So that means
So
when you're
recycled,
when
yeah,
you're
filtered,
when you're
recycled,
when you're
whatever.
yeah when you're peeing into your bath, into your toilet,
Yeah,
whether you're
yeah.
on contraceptive pill, that's in the water. Whether you're on
Oh,
All of it.
antidepressants, that's in the
now.
water. Antibiotics, that's in the water. Now,
I'm
yes, it
about
may
to
be
vomit.
diluted. What I'm saying is, it may be diluted and diluted and diluted, but the fact is, it's still there
Yeah.
Can I ask
in
one
very
question though? Yeah,
low levels. Yeah,
you
and
see with this whole
that's
thing
why
of
fertility is going down in the UK.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
see
I
this
hear
whole
that.
thing of with this whole thing of mental health though. Yeah,
Mm.
how can it be if people have got freedom of rights? Yeah, how can it be right for
We
you to
don't have
force
freedoms.
someone to take a medication?
No, you
I want the
cannot
person.
take it, but they've got liquid. Oh,
Schiffer,
sorry.
remember, we don't have rights. We're citizens. We're
So we don't have
subjects.
rights.
So we're
With
subjects. We're
Obviously.
subjects to the Queen.
if
We
if
don't have a
you
constitution like America.
we're a democracy supposedly. Basically, if you do something naughty in hospital, they'll give you something called liquid cosh.
Yes.
I've seen on many occasions. Yeah, there was a girl I remember. She was kicking off. 7 nurses held her.
Yeah.
They did. I didn't see what they did, but they got her to her room. 7 people held her down, and they gave her a liquid cosh. You're out in 3 seconds, mate. And
Yeah.
they all just left her and just let her to sleep. But I can't remember what it's called. But I used to kick off. Yeah, I used to say I need the liquid cosh. They said no, you don't. So I just started kicking off, and they give it to me, and then I go to sleep for 3
I think
days.
it's Largastral. I think it's what they call Largastral.
Yeah, it's
that's what it's
really
called.
nasty.
But listen,
yeah.
the finer
What
detail
about your
of the
human
Schiffer,
rights, though?
You don't have them when you're in the unit. You don't have them when you're in the unit.
Schiffer, remember, in this country, it is a crime to attempt suicide.
Hold up, break that
Just-
down for me.
just-
In this country,
In
you
this
what you get if
country,
you attempted suicide in this country, you're going to get
your
arrested.
right to take it. Yeah,
Because you're negligible against yourself.
and
you're
you'll be put in hospital, hopefully.
So you don't have no rights in this country, then, really?
No.
Well, the only protection we have are the human rights, and those are the Human
But if-
Rights Act. Those
Yeah,
are
but-
the rights and employment rights. Employment rights we have.
Yeah, but if
There's
you got
everyday
human rights, yeah. If you got human rights, me as a human, I can say, listen, I don't want to take anything. I don't want anything unnatural in my body.
You
So if
can choose
force
that
me to take
option.
that. You force me to
And
take
then,
that
and then
liquid,
you'll stay in
whatever it is.
hospital a lot longer.
They will bird you up. They will bird you up. My longest stay is 9 months because I said I wouldn't take it.
When you go
Oh.
to that interview panel to see whether or not you can be released back, you will get
Psychiatrist.
denied.
You have 2 psychiatrists. You have a nurse.
It's a
You have the
tribunal, isn't
matron on the ward. Yeah.
They call it tribunal.
You have to have 2 psychiatrists because one psychiatrist is not allowed to give you the option. They have to discuss it with the team. So they'll have the head nurse, the matron on the ward, anyone that's on the wards. They all make notes. They have something called bunks. I can't remember what it's called. Handover. So every 10 to 12 hours, there's a handover, and it's when the staff discuss what's going on, which means the nursing levels drop. So that's how I escaped, because I've escaped from 2 units 3 times. And basically, what they do is they have you can escape out of most units.
Pause. Listen. I'm not gonna lie. Listen, you see from what we said, yeah. If we can look at, if we could look at statistics, yeah, and we could find that there is a disproportionate amount of black people in this mental health system, to me, that's modern day slavery.
Yeah,
because at the end of the day, like you said, You listen on the plantation. You weren't getting away unless you did what you had to wait till the policing levels dropped. The what they called it again, the
Did you?
overseeing level dropped,
Yeah, but
and
did
then you
you
can
know?
escape.
But Schiffer,
Jesus.
Did you know that? Right, the slave owners didn't believe that the African slaves could get malaria,
Oh my God.
so they would have them working and working and working. And when the slaves got sick, they thought the slaves were malingering. So what was
Oh
their answer
no.
to that?
Beat
Was to
them.
beat
What?
them.
What?
Was to
Oh
beat them.
no. Just beat them. That's fucking
Was to
No,
disgusting.
beat
that's
them.
messed up. That's messed up.
To beat
That's
them.
horrible.
Yeah, because they didn't believe that black people or Africans could get malaria.
And this is why a man like Boris Johnson should not be a prime minister. Because from you can use words like pickaninnies. Remember, when you're talking about
Yeah.
pickaninnies, you're talking about children that were taken, separated from their
Exactly.
parents, and abused.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's
But
despicable.
then,
He, ne-
but
he
you
never should
mentioned
have got
Boris.
in.
But listen, you mentioned Boris. Boris was married and had an affair. Boris was married, had an affair, and had the girl get an abortion. Right. This is all in the public domain. That was Petra something or other. From what was that magazine that he used to the
Economist.
was it The Economist that he wrote for, or was there another one? Anyway,
Have I got news for you on?
It wasn't Daily Sport by any chance, was it?
But I mean, not just that. So remember, Boris has got 7 children with 3 different women, right? Remember, he moved. Remember, he moved. Remember when he moved
What
into
the fuck?
when he
No.
moved into 10 Downing Street, he was still married, but he moved in with his girlfriend who was pregnant.
Nah, Boris is a straight up. Nah, do you know what? I'm gonna be honest. Boris is a straight up gangster. He a straight up gangster. And
He's black.
you
He's
know,
he's a white black man.
no, don't call him a
Fuck's
white
sake.
black man. Please
No,
don't do that. Listen,
but do you know
black
the worst
people
thing
ain't
he did?
gangster.
Do you know the worst thing he did, Schiffer? Do you know the worst thing he did? And it's in the public domain. When he was in the Foreign Office, the woman that he's with now, who's now his wife, was giving him blowjobs under the table, and she got caught.
What?
Oh my days.
All in the public domain. And this man,
What is it on WikiLeaks? Is it on WikiLeaks?
Oh, it's all. You just Google Boris's scandals, and it will all come up.
I
Right?
don't know what he's done.
And not just that. Remember, he also met the Russian. He said he couldn't remember if he met the Russian, but he did. He's now said he met the Russian spy several times on his own, right? Because he's Russian, remember, right? Russian Jewish. But just think, this man was running the country. This man is leader of the Conservative Party, and this man cannot see what he has done wrong. I rest my case.
No, but that's
Mad. That's mad.
Because no. You have sociopaths, and you man to say with mental health, you have sociopaths and psychopaths. So sociopaths don't realise what they're doing is right or wrong.
He's a narcissist.
No, that's something separate. That means they enjoy. No, psychopaths enjoy what they're doing and they get pleasure out of it.
Yeah.
And some psychopaths enjoy and get pleasure out of doing it, but still don't know what they're doing is right or wrong.
Just think about that. Just think about it. We asked.
I don't want to think about him having a blowjob.
No, but I'm just thinking. We think about this man and his integrity. So he was married to his wife. He became prime minister, and he moved in with his girlfriend.
Now, if I ever meet Boris, listen. If I ever, if I ever
had
meet
the baby
Boris,
before he was divorced.
that's fucked. But I'm gonna definitely. If I ever meet Boris, my only question for Boris is this: are you a player or a pimp? That's my only question. That's my only question for Boris.
Do you know what you need to do? Look at his little finger, and if it's really long nails, you know he's a pimp.
But I don't see what women see in him. I just can't see it.
It's his language. It's his beautiful language he always uses.
Maybe they're falling for the white blonde hair. I don't know, but I'm not seeing it. Unless he's got something in his pants that's the size of a salami, I don't see what he's got.
Oh no, he buys fancy cars and jewelry, man.
And remember when he had his party at number 10 and he was dancing, trying to the black woman. I wish that black woman could have been me. I would have slapped him so hard. Don't you be rubbing up against me. It's like you've already got your wife, girlfriend.
Come on.
Now you want to try some flavour. No.
And you're calling us picking in these on top of it. Nah,
Yeah.
nah.
Yeah.
Nah. Something's not right there.
Yeah.
Something definitely right there. But I think that the one thing that I'm definitely taking from this conversation is when we're dealing with mental health, especially, you
Yeah.
know, a person could have, you know, completely normal health, but another person decides that they don't think their mental health is well. So now this person's been incarcerated, and now they're a slave to a system that won't let them go for a crime they didn't commit.
Well,
And
the
if
thing
you
is,
don't cooperate,
yeah,
cooperate, you
yeah.
can't get released.
Yeah. I know that. I know that as well. I can say that.
That's the thing.
You have to go along with basically the charade and be like,
Yeah.
yes, I know I've got a problem.
They
Give
shouldn't
them
be
a
able to
medication.
enslave a person for their mental health, though, because that's a condition you can't control. They shouldn't be allowed to do that.
Yeah, but it's just like the us all being slaves to the wage, isn't it? If you don't get money, you don't get anything else. You can't do anything like. But with your mental health, it's your it's your freedom. You can't leave a unit.
I don't think the bigger issue is about having a mental health issue. I think the bigger issue actually is the private sector getting involved in mental health.
Oh, that's
people like the Priory. You know, they've
What?
got one level for celebrities, and yet they've got a lot of mental health units that deal with young adolescents. Are run privately by the Priory.
I was 21
and trust
when
me, I've seen those units. I have seen how they treat people in those units, and it is appalling. It's filled with people that don't care.
Yeah.
And it's filled with agency staff that are often from Africa or from the Caribbean, and they're temporary workers, and they are more caring than the staff that are paid by the NHS.
Nah, that's crazy. So obviously, if you've got money, different level of treatment. Sorry, I got a little bit of background noise. I'm just going to the police station to get my car back, and they got a helicopter landing. But yeah, so there's different levels. If you got money, you might be all right with the mental health treatment then.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but they're not. If you've got money, you're paying their bills. I had the NHS, which means I didn't have an input on them. But I met someone because I went to a rehab unit. And I went to a psychiatric unit afterwards. And basically, I was told by a certain member of staff to clean up my own sick when I had a fever. And they said, you've got to clean up your own sick when I was having a fever.
That's
but
terrible.
Yeah, if I was in the Priory, they wouldn't have done that. They'd been like, "Oh, sorry, sir, we have to look after you."
Well, it depends. It depends. Well, I mean, I'm talking about youngsters, so up until the age of 18. Yeah, the adolescents.
Well, it's actually. Can I just say it's 20? It's 21 because I've done NHS training. You're an adolescent if you're in care up to 21.
Yeah, if you're in care up until 21, but under the Mental Health Act, if you're 18, you can then go into the adult programs. So that means then you're going to the real shady places. But if you're under 18, some of them are okay. And I know somebody that was a young person that was in psychiatric units, and a couple of them that she was in were really nice, and they were run by the NHS. And then she went to the Priory, which is the one way past Richmond, and oh my god, that place was like it was like going into a dungeon. Seriously, it was just. I mean, the rooms were huge because you all have your own room, but the windows are all locked. Everything's screwed down. Everything's anti-damage, anti-this, anti-that. No doors inside the room so that they can see you when you're in the bathroom. But it was just the way people behaved. Just the staff that was were just horrible. It was only saved by the agency staff every single one was black. That was agency staff. They were the only ones with compassion there. I mean, they had a girl there. I had a girl there that was, I think she was like 16, 17, and she couldn't control her bladder. So wherever she went, she would just pee. That was just one of her things. And she was OCD. She could only touch certain things. So she had her own plate, her own knife, fork, glass, blah, 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 and her chair. And when she peed, the chair, they didn't clean it up. The agency staff would come in and clean up the chair. They would expect her just to sit in that chair for the rest of the day.
There were
youngsters in there that were having issues with gender identity, and the way that they were bullied. Oh, it was just, there was. I remember, and I shouldn't laugh, but there was one girl who said she was going to blow the place up. She was a terrorist.
I said I blew up Bunsfield.
and she was so funny because she would tell them, I'm going to blow the place up. I'm going to blow the place up. I'm a terrorist. And that was her thing. She was clearly unwell. And, when I went in there to see a couple of people in there, to be honest, I just thought she was just a little bit crazy, but not dangerous. Do you know what I mean?
If you've got the Anarchist Tear book, have you heard?
She was Asian, all dressed up as an Asian, all, with Muslim and religiously praying. And I think she was in there because she was a religious fanatic. I don't think she was in there because she was mentally unwell.
Have you heard of the Anarchist Handbook?
Yes.
Yeah. No, I browsed over it and it's scary.
But when you came out of the mental health unit, I mean, were you given good support in the community?
I'll give you a brief story. I had mental health problems from about the age of 16. By the time I was 18, I was diagnosed with schizophrenia. By the time I hit 21, on my 21st birthday, I got sectioned. That was on a section 3, so I couldn't leave for 3 or 6 months. They said to my mum and dad that I may not come out of this and expect me to be in a coma for the rest of my life. I came out of it after about 6 to 7 months, spent Christmas at home. But my brother, he said that the treatment that I received, he said, not even cows should, not women, sorry, that's my humour coming through. He said not even cows should be treated how you were treated. I also I remember having an EEG. I don't know if it was electroconvulsive therapy.
Yeah,
but basically,
I thought that was illegal.
So did I. I've had loads of stuff. I've been shot in the back of the head. I've had loads of stuff happen to me. Baseball bat to the face. But basically, they put these diodes on my head and they said, right, relax. And I had the bloke said, when I was relaxed, I had no blood. I had no electrical brain activity. And then he said, but when I started doing the EEG or whatever it's called, he said, it was off the scale. Literally, my brain reactions were firing. He's never seen anything like it. I don't know which hospital that was. Then I come out, was fine. I weighed 8 stone when I went into the psychiatric unit, and I came out about 13 stone.
Yeah, because of the medications.
Yeah, all you do is eat shit, take your meds and sleep.
Because it makes you want to eat carbohydrates.
I'd eat anything. I could get through 100. Well, I've got 100 quid shop, but I know I can't eat like that anymore because I'm a smaller person. But basically, come out for 6 months. Everything was getting better, and they said, don't touch weed again and you'll be fine. Me being me, started smoking weed, so I went back in there. And then things, as from 22, 23, I've been in several psychiatric units. One of them, I was in an isolation unit, and all I had was a bed, and
a suicide outfit on. Did you have one of those?
No, I don't think I've had those. But basically, I had a bed. I had
it's like a tear-proof gown. It's like a tear-proof gown they put you in.
Yeah. I only had that gown on,
but didn't you have like a mental health advocate that was like?
No, I've never once had one. No, never once.
So how did you manage to get yourself out? Because that's
because I'm extremely clever. I'm not stupid. I know how it works, and I know how I can get out of things. I can be very clever, but I'm also very stupid as well. But
so would you say that your behaviour can be self-destructive?
Oh fuck yeah! I mean, I sometimes, because of my drug addiction, I'm literally at times just sitting down thinking I'm going to trash the place, and then I'm thinking, because I used to do that a lot when I was in my previous address. But basically, I was like, I'm going to smash the place up. If I smash the place up, who's going to be giving me a TV? Who's going to be doing X, Y, and Z? I'm going to have to clean up all the mess. So
but where does that rage come from? Do you know now?
Inside my head, it's just a rage. It's just like, people say they have a couple of drinks and that, and they get rage, and they can't. I get blackouts still and stuff like that. I've got to talk to psychiatrists, but sometimes they're very hard to get hold of. But I phone the Samaritans, I phone Frank, I phone the mental health helpline, and they've all helped me so much. Without the you get really good people on the line, but Frank's by far the best. And basically, yeah, like without their help, I wouldn't be here today. I know that for a
But we
fact.
need you. We need you in
Yeah,
this.
I'm gonna keep on
We
coming
need you. We need
to
you to tell your story. We need you to
I've
Yeah.
survive this experience. Seriously.
I've written books and books and books. I mean, I've got A4. You know, you get 500
Yeah.
pages. I've got
Yeah.
about 3 or 4 of them. I've written about 1,500 pages, and on top of that, I've done diagrams and scientific experiments that I think I could do. What else is there? There's my artwork. Played football, played rugby, but yeah, I've done a lot of damage to my brain, but it seems to have
But
made it like a bit better.
your experiences is about mental health. It's not about you trying to take your own life, is it?
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
I know
it's
you
just
can't
about
do
you
that.
doing things to excess, and
Yeah,
it just affects the chemicals in your body react very strongly to chemicals that
Stimuli.
you
Yeah,
take. Yeah.
it's serotonin, dopamine,
Yeah. So
and the other one,
cortisone.
cortisone. Yeah.
So in a way it sounds like part of your biological makeup is that you are prone to be addicted to these things because
Well, the thing.
your body's trying to get them.
Well, my
Your body
mum was
needs them.
my biological mother was schizophrenic, and my biological father was an alcoholic, and they met in a psychiatric unit.
Oh God.
That's they had me. It's like fucking Terminator fucking plot. But
Yeah,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
This there now, mate. Born in the furnace. Cool, brother. No, not on the phone. On the phone.
Yeah, then some of the hallucinations I've seen, man, have been crazy.
But that doesn't take away your value as a person or your creativity. I think all of
No,
these
yeah,
things.
yeah.
I think all of these things make you more interesting, more human than people that've had a regular life. Because you've seen
Thank you very much.
you've seen the dark
Yeah.
sides, and you've come
Yeah.
out, and you're honest and
Yeah.
open about it. Because I don't think people should be ashamed about having mental health issues. Because I think a lot of us do.
Yeah.
And for some people, just like some people, they drink whiskey and they become an addict. You smoke weed, you become an addict. Whether you can stay off the weed is another matter. But I don't. It's not because you want to do it. It's because your body compels you to do it. It's a difference.
Yeah.
But, there's no judgment on this panel about your mental health. Makes you a richer
No.
person. You're the kind of
Thank you.
person that should be talking to other people at Mind and getting things
Yeah.
put in place to help people. Because
Yeah.
what goes on in these psychiatric units, I think a lot of it is hell. It's hell.
Yeah. When I was in one of the psychiatric units, since I've come out, about 7 of them were asked to leave.
But you sound like you're very good at manipulating people. So you're very, 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 very smart.
Yeah. I know if I went into this psychiatric unit where I'm near now, I'd be out within 3 days.
And that does make you a bit dangerous. You know that.
Oh yeah. But I'd rather keep to myself and just look after myself than be a dangerous individual to society.
But when you are in this, but schizophrenia, I mean, that's not you, is it? That's
No.
real life. That's hallucinations. That's your body trying to protect you and creating environment in your head. So, I mean, if you're having a hallucination, you need to be somewhere safe, don't you?
Well,
You admit that.
Let me tell you about one of them. I thought I saw. Have you heard of Lord Shiva?
No.
Basically, he's a Hindu god. He's one of the top 3 Hindu gods, and he's of death and destruction, but he's also of rebirth.
Yeah.
I saw him at the end of my road on top of a building, and he was about 20 foot tall. And I've done my research on it as well. I saw 3 African gods sitting down having a conversation on my sofa. That's how bad it got for me, because my chemical
you thought they were
imbalance
real.
was
You thought they were real.
Yeah,
Isn't the human mind just amazing?
It is. It's probably because I look into things as well, because I like religion, even though I wouldn't say I'm born Catholic in that,
but like I'm interested in every religion because every religion is right to someone. Therefore, you can't say it's more or less important to someone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but when you were hallucinating, were you afraid?
I was shitting myself because
Yeah,
with the
so you
with
weren't safe. You didn't feel safe.
no
So
with the African gods,
yeah.
the African gods have come a couple of times, but with Shiva, apparently he was protecting me from the other gods. But yeah, sometimes they because my friends came to sort of rescue me, and I saw her son as like a 4-year-old child because I hadn't seen him in 2 years, and he wasn't even there. So fucking yeah, but because of the I mean I've done hard drugs, and basically the only thing that kept me going and alive was the fact I did football and rugby, and that's the thing that kept me going because I had oxygen going to my brain.
Yeah.
If I didn't do sports and didn't do that sort of stuff, then I wouldn't.
And you'd be playing with adrenaline, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and
so that comes back to your endorphins. That all comes back to your you need a heightened level of stimulation.
Oh yeah, that's why I've got the dog, so I can take it out for a walk every day.
In this heat?
No, that's unfair. I leave it until I go out about.
Yeah, it's like my dog. She doesn't go out till about 9 o'clock. She goes out because it's just mad. They say that Monday and Tuesday is going to be hotter than the Sahara.
It's going to melt the tarmac, so don't take dogs out on.
I wouldn't. I live opposite a park, but I wouldn't. Even when she goes in the garden, I can just see her tiptoeing back into the house. Like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah. But no, I've always lived at 100 miles an hour. I've had a death wish for years, but I don't. Because I've been through much shit. I know I need to slow down now.
But do you think that's your personality, or do you think that's your coping mechanism?
Definitely coping mechanism.
Because do you accept yourself as who you are, just in your raw skin?
I do state, now.
Do you? That's great. That is progress.
4 years ago, I hated who I was, but I've matured and changed as a person. From 4 years to 6 months, it's unimaginably changed.
Yeah, accept who you are. Well. Accept who you are. Accept what you are. Accept how you are. This is who you are.
Yeah.
You can't be anything other than true to you. And on that journey, you might have some ups and downs, but that's the only journey you can make.
Yeah. 100%.
Oh well. It's been great talking to you. I'm going to have to come down now because my friend's about to die. But you're a cool dude.
Sweet as sweetheart. You're lovely as well, darling. Hopefully I'll talk to you again, darling.
Yeah, hopefully. But you take care.
I will do, and I'll slow down.
And use sun protection.
Pardon?
And use sun protection if you go out.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to be hallucinating because of that. Natural hallucination. Not good.
All right, you take care.
All right, God bless, darling.
All right, bye.
Shiva, you still there?
I'm still here, bro. I'm still here. I ain't going nowhere.
Good man. Yeah, man, I've seen some crazy. What's that? Is that a line from Good Morning Vietnam or something? I've seen some shit, man.
Yeah, come on, man. I'm still here. I ain't going nowhere. Like, I got this video to play. Like, big up Laughing Tom though, because I think that she done a lot for us just there. Like, and I think we need to be highlighting these issues, especially these issues of people's freedoms being violated, within the mental health system, XYZ.
With mental health, as soon as you're in that unit, you are stripped of human rights. You don't have any rights. You don't have the access to foods. Like, they have to feed you, they have to put a roof over your head, you have to have running water. But there are places that are really run down. When I went to somewhere called Schrodell's in Watford, they had this bath in the middle of a room, and it was, one that you get lowered down into in the bath. Shiva?
Yeah, no, sorry, I was listening. Go on. So
you have like a piece of fabric that you'd sit on, and then you get lowered into the bath. It was scary as shit. And
wow.
When I was there were 3 people that had their legs cut off because they jumped in front of trains.
Wow.
And that freaked me the fuck out. One lady said she always sees the devil at the end of her bed, and I was just like, Jesus Christ. I
Yeah,
was
that's
there for about
unmental.
4 months.
It don't sound good. I'm gonna be honest. You see what I'm gonna do though, yeah? Like,
Yeah.
I've got a little video that I want to play, so I'm
Sorry,
gonna play
brother.
this
Sorry,
video.
brother.
No, you're good. Don't be sorry, man. Like, I think this has been an excellent subject, but I think that you know, all of these things are tied together, whether it
Yeah.
be, you know, the abuse of people with mental health, whether it be abuse of police powers because people look a particular way. But I think this next video, like, it just looks really interesting, and I've not seen it myself yet, so I really wanted to watch it, and I wanted to watch it with, you know, the rest of you guys who's here watching the channel, and maybe get some feedback from you guys on your opinions. I'll give mine, and we'll just see where they're going with it, because I just thought it was a really interesting subject. They're saying how American slavery creates the modern day policing. So I'd like to hear what they got to say on this, because I think that the two are definitely connected. And I think there's definitely a reason why the police keep targeting people of color in general. More to the point, black people. So I'm gonna play this video. If you want to jump off and jump back in, you can, or if you want to stay and watch with us, you can. But yeah, I'd like to hear you guys' opinions, man, because I think this is a big subject that, you know, it affects the lives of millions. So, you know, I'd like to get a different perspective, if that's okay. We've got, you know, some perspective from Talking Tomfoolery, sorry. We got some, I said Talking Tom, that's that cat thing on the phone, isn't it? Yeah, we got some perspective from DJ 10 Cities. So I want to see if we can get some other perspectives from other places. Let's see what this video is saying. Let's just go straight in. Hold up.
Police are supposed to protect and serve, but has that ever been the case for Black Americans? Today's baggage, how slavery helped create modern-day policing. Let's take it back to 1619, when a group of several hundred Africans were kidnapped from their village, forced onto a Portuguese ship, only to be stolen by English pirates at sea. After a voyage filled with horror and death, what's referred to as some 20 and odd Negroes arrived in the New World and were sold in a place now known as Virginia. Yes, enslaved Africans were in the New World before your beloved Pilgrims. These few Africans survived the perils of the transatlantic slave trade, which had been underway since the 1500s in the Western Hemisphere. During the slave trade, Africans were captured and forcibly brought to the Americas in ginormous numbers. Historians say that from 1526 to 1867, something like 12.5 million enslaved people were stolen from Africa and journeyed to the Americas. Only about 11 million arrived alive. Back to 1619. Those who did survive the horrors of the slave trade and were brought to what would become the US were also subjected to the first form of organized policing in the South, known as the Slave Patrol. In case you missed it, the Slave Patrol and slave catchers were the first form of organized police in the South. These watching-ass white folks first emerged in the colony of Carolina in the early 1700s and set the tone for policing as we know it. The Slave Patrol.
All right. And I had a feeling this is where they was going with it. So anyone who didn't catch that, I'm gonna rewind it back for you a little bit. We're gonna go through that again, because I think that some people ain't gonna take things in as quickly as others, but I think this is really important what she's saying. So let's go again.
Forced onto a Portuguese ship only to be stolen by English pirates at sea. After a voyage filled with horror and death, what's referred to as some 20 and odd Negroes arrived in the New World and were sold in a place now known as Virginia. Yes, enslaved Africans were in the New World before your beloved Pilgrims. These few Africans survived the perils of the transatlantic slave trade, which had been underway since the 1500s in the Western Hemisphere. During the slave trade, Africans were captured and forcibly brought to the Americas in ginormous numbers. Historians say that from 1526 to 1867, something like 12.5 million enslaved people were stolen from Africa and journeyed to the Americas. Only about 11 million arrived alive. Back to 1619. Those who did survive the horrors of the slave trade and were brought to what would become the U.S. were also subjected to the first form of organized policing in the South, known as the Slave Patrol. In case you missed it, the Slave Patrol and slave catchers were the first form of organized police in the South. These watching-ass white folks first emerged in the colony of Carolina in the early 1700s and set the tone for policing as we know it. The Slave Patrol kept tabs on the whereabouts of the enslaved. And that meant if Black men and women were off a plantation, then the Slave Patrol could demand to see a slave badge noting their occupation. Slave Patrol could stop and search whomever's belongings just because. Now, I wonder who that sounds like. Then there was the slave catchers. That role is pretty self-explanatory. Then there was their occupation. Slave Patrol could. That meant if Black men and women were off a plantation, then the Slave Patrol could demand to see a slave badge noting their occupation. Slave Patrol could stop and search whomever's belongings just because.
Now you see that one there really, really hit me hard still. Because like literally, ain't that what the police are doing to us now? Just coming up with any excuse to stop and search us.
Yeah, the difference is we
Until
don't
now.
have. Oh no, you've got ID. You've got to give them all the driving license.
All right. Do you see what I'm saying? So from
That's
then
deep.
till now,
That's deep. I'd never thought of it like that.
from then till now. And the thing is, it's like when you're a people owned by another people group, you know, it's even more detrimental because at the end of the day, why would they have our best interests at heart? You know, we're here to, you know, to be of service or to be a benefit to, you know, like that. We're not
What
here
they're
to
trying to do
be
is put you
benefited.
down as they're trying to put you down as well by owning you, by saying, do you know what I mean? They're above you. I don't know how to say it without contradicting myself or something. It's like when you're, because they're supposed to serve us, but they're doing the complete opposite. They're controlling us. And
That's
especially with ID and with the COVID, they've got everyone's own DNA potentially.
I'm going to play the rest of this. Oh my God.
Sorry, brother.
Now finish your sentence though, and then I'll play. Go on.
Yeah, it's like with the COVIDs, with all that, they've technically got everyone's DNA in a DNA sequencing thing.
Yeah, that's mad.
Then there was the slave catchers. That role is pretty self-explanatory. The slave catchers chased and returned runaways. They also intentionally scared the bejesus out of the enslaved to instill a sense of fear and prevent revolts. There was some overlap between the role of the slave catcher and the slave patrol, but together they enforced the idea that Black people were second-class citizens and that white people were the authority. And organized police departments, they enforced this racial hierarchy too. In South Carolina, for example, by 1837, there were dozens of officers in the Charleston Police Department whose jobs were essentially to monitor the enslaved. And though slavery was abolished after the Civil War, the spirit of tracking and policing Black folks lived on. During the Reconstruction era, Black codes were enacted with the quickness, and they restricted how Black folks could live their lives. David A. Harris is a law professor at the University of Pittsburgh. Harris specializes in law enforcement and race, so y'all know we're gonna have a lot to talk about. How did Black people's relationship with law enforcement change after emancipation?
Law enforcement often was cast in the role of enforcing Jim Crow laws and other kinds of laws aimed at maintaining the racial caste system and at keeping Black people, quote, in their place. So law enforcement, to the extent it existed, would be one thing for white people and another entirely for Black people. It was aimed at maintaining the racial separation that existed in their system of racial privilege for whites and second-class at best citizenship for Blacks. And this only exists in the South. There were certainly law enforcement efforts that did the same thing in northern city towns.
But in the South, the system of racism wasn't just upheld by law enforcement. Vigilante groups like the Ku Klux Klan played a massive role in terrorizing Black communities with lynchings and other forms of violence.
You would find many powerful and prominent people to have been members of the KKK, including law enforcement. You would think today nobody in law enforcement would want to be out front as a member of KKK. Of course, you wouldn't see that. But in those days, it was acceptable for many kinds of leading citizens to be involved, and law enforcement was no exception.
Case in point, Hugo Black, an ex-Klan member who went on to become a member of the U.S. Supreme Court. I digress. So for the most part, it was the responsibility of the police to uphold the law of the land, which in the South meant enforcing segregation. Police were oppressive and violent. This was well documented during the Civil Rights Movement, when at times they wore riot gear while using hoses and dogs on peaceful protesters. Why is the imagery of the police dog so important?
So you don't have to go far back into history to imagine people running away from slavery being tracked by dogs. But then we have actual documentary evidence in which we see dogs used instruments of law enforcement and utter terror and just as weapons in the civil rights era. It's a weapon, literally, for law enforcement purposes, like a club or a gun would be. And it is also a message from history. Dogs have been used before in contexts like this, and they're being used now.
They sure are. This picture was taken just a few years ago in Ferguson. I think this is what they call deja vu. It's law enforcement who use dogs and other weapons of violence to instill fear in Black people. But the irony is that trigger-happy policing is in part caused by stereotypical fears held by the officers themselves. Darren Wilson, the officer who shot and killed Michael Brown, used fear as a defense, likening the unarmed team to a demon. Police killings of unarmed Black and brown people have gone on way before Michael Brown, and sadly will continue after him. Police are 2 times as likely to use force against Black and brown folks than white folks. We also know that policing tactics like stop and frisk, as well as racial profiling, are terribly discriminatory. Here it says that racial profiling by police has evolved to fit whatever agenda they might have against people of color in the US, targeting Black and Latinx people during the crack epidemic, Muslims after 9/11, and Central American migrants up until today.
The tactic has a long history. It seems to mutate to fit whatever problem can be blamed on a particular ethnic or racial group. It has never shown any degree of success, and yet it persists.
$1 million question. Can policing in America be fixed?
I think the whole criminal justice machine, complex, what do you want to call it, must be vastly scaled. I think it's far too large. I think it has much too great a role in our whole society, and therefore it's too powerful, and it just chews people up and spits them out, and does so more with certain communities than others.
All right. So I was trying to find the mute button there. So we heard it from, a very learned man, a Caucasian man, who, if he wanted to defend something, he could have defended it, but he chose to speak out against it. And I think that ultimately, he says it needs to be scaled back. Yeah. I don't disagree with him. Because I think that a lot of the policing is done more to stop people from having anything than it is to actually stop them committing crimes. That's my honest opinion of policing, and this is why I think a lot of people don't trust the police. The police are literally, from what I just watched in this video, the modern day slave driver, the modern day whip cracker. Yeah. And some of them don't even know it. I'd imagine some of them do, and they enjoy being in that role, but some of them don't even know it. And I think that it's high time that, they started recognizing these things, because, to kill a man, because you was in fear that he might do something. These times the man's unarmed, XYZ. That shows a mentality already. To have so much people locked away in jail for things like cannabis and things that, really and truthfully, okay, maybe they made a little bit of money, or maybe they was a smoker, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, they're not really hurting anybody. Do you feel where I'm coming from? no more
Shiva.
than yeah.
They've also got in America. They've got different agencies. They've got like the CIA, which is the equivalent of MI5. Then you've got the district's attorney. Then you've got the marshals. Then you've got all those different ones doing different things, which is the same thing as what the history is saying. So you've got the people that hunt the slaves that are being naughty or escaping. Then you've got the
That's
people
right.
so they've got different people doing other things. It's just crazy. And let me just say, I've just seen something on the internet. Have you heard about the CIA hacking Apple?
No.
I'll see. When I like see any more, if it's relevant, I'll tell you. But apparently, the CIA hacked Apple.
Okay. I didn't know that. So what did they find when they hacked them?
It's just on adverts at the moment. I'm just gonna wait for it, and if it's like when it says what's happened, like I'll let you know.
Yeah.
But that's like internal. That's like MI5 because MI6 is that's for international affairs, but MI5 is just for internal, and that's where they've got the building in London.
Yeah, that's all mad.
Sorry,
See,
brother.
I think the next thing I wanted to talk about a little bit was, we spoke about it a little bit earlier. We touched on it, when I'm trying to remember when it was. I'm gonna see if I can find anything. But if I remember, in America at a particular point in time, different groups of people were given control over different industries. Yeah. If I remember rightly, the Irish were given control over the police. Was it the Irish or was it the Jewish? One of the two, I don't know, but different industries, isn't it? And I would like to understand, what were the black people given control of at this time?
Hard labor.
Train
lines.
Do you know, like that? That's what I would like to know. Like, I just don't get it. I don't understand how everyone else got given industries, and what we just got more slavery. We just got more labor.
Not being racist, but the cotton fields.
Yeah.
Is that true? Is that right or is that wrong?
Well, we weren't given the cotton fields. We were sent in them and made to flipping.
That's what I mean. I didn't mean you were giving. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Wait, I'm reading it now. Wait, no.
What, you found something on it? Yeah.
No, it's coming up now. It's on this Sky Channel. But it's on about different cases and shit like that. It's always got different cases and that. But it said something about the CIA hacked Apple, and that's fucked up. But then you've got who looks on the people who do the looking on, if that makes sense. That was on Enemy of the State. Do you remember that film with Will Smith?
Yeah.
And they were like, if someone's doing policing, who's looking after the people that do the policing to make sure it's, because we've got inquiries as to why things go wrong, but I don't know if they have that in America.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one, man. I'm trying to see if I can find anything pertaining to this this whole thing of, the Irish taking over the police.
Isn't that Gangs of New York with Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yeah, something. Yeah, do you remember that film? It was in that film, wasn't it?
Yeah, you've got all the different people with the different hats on, and they just batter the shit out of each other.
Yeah. And
you have the Bobbies like whistling with these fucking truncheons, just beating the. Sorry, my language is terrible.
Yeah, and the guys with the stripy top, the guy with the mad, I can't remember his name. What's his name? I can't remember his name. But
Tommy
that guy
Peel.
is like,
Tommy Peel.
Yeah. He's a serious dude. He's not messing around.
Yeah, he's got serious anger issues.
Yeah, that film was funny, boy. I'll be honest, the first time I watched it, I never watched it properly, but the second time it was like, wow, how did I miss all
When did that come out? About 2005?
something like that? Yeah, something like that. About 2000 and something.
But they're in that video we just watched. It's true about, like, you know, they always seem to blame one minority for each event that happens.
Yeah.
So like immigration, it's the Hispanics. But with 9/11, they had George Bush in line with the Arabic prince or something, and that was with the older George Bush.
Mm.
That was about oil and stuff like that. But right, get this. Apparently, some
we're still Optimum back.
What was it? There was apparently Saudi Arabia got sold loads of Eurofighters, and none of them have GPS in, so they can't use the planes.
What?
Yeah, apparently Britain did a deal with Saudi Arabia. It was for like 200 Typhoon Eurofighters, and we took the GPS out, so they can't use them.
Why can't they just get another GPS then?
Because you can't fit it in the unit. They designed it without the GPS.
So can't they just get another GPS and put it in there?
No, because it wouldn't fit in the plane. You can't have GPS because GPS is global positioning satellite. It tells you exactly where you are. Like my phone will have a GPS position. It's longitude and latitude. And basically, it will show you where you are at a certain stage within 9 feet, and you need that. But then it hasn't got the height of it.
Viewed as an
so fucking
beast.
Yeah, they just can't fly. They've paid all this money for fucking these planes they can't use, basically. Mad.
Hello, Dad.
Yeah, nah, it sounds crazy. I'm not gonna lie. It's crazy. So I just got my little man there.
Oh, bless him, man.
But yeah, I'm trying to find something, but I'm struggling at the moment. I'm being given things to do, so I might have to find it next time.
No
All
problem.
right,
I'm gonna shoot off, bruv, because I've got to feed my dog.
Yeah. All right, say no more, man.
Yeah, give us another message when you're online. I won't talk so much next time, I promise.
Nah, talk as much as you want, man. We enjoy you talking.
All right, it's been a pleasure, everyone. Sorry if I've nutted you, like, just got you thinking I'm twisted, but I am what I am, innit? Standard.
All right, broski. I'll chat to you next time.
All right, God bless you. I'll see you later, mate. Bye.
Yes, bro. All right, so what we're gonna do is, I think we're gonna call it a day for now, but next time we're gonna try and find. Oh, hold on, who's that? Kingo, where did you go? I didn't see you there, bro. Sorry, bro. But we're gonna try and find something to show us. Talk to us about these Irish people being given control of the police system, and if any other systems was given to other people to control during that period, and what was given to the black people. We need to know, because if nothing weren't given, there's definitely an issue there. And if we're living in a world that's no longer racist, then something definitely needs to be rectified there. So even when we talk about things like reparations, I think that's something that's definitely got to be part of it. Like, Kingo, if you're still about, I'll give you 5 minutes, bro. Now I'm gonna go back to some music quickly. I'm gonna play a couple of tunes. So if any of you don't want to jump back on, if you've got some points you wanted to make, if there's anything in particular you wanted to speak on that you've seen already, feel free. But if I do forget, remind me next time that we need to find this evidence. In fact, I'm gonna search it up now when I jump off. But yeah, man, big up yourselves. It's been a good little show. Appreciate you all, and blessings. Unless we see a Kingo or anyone else turn up, we out. Yeah. All right, blessings.
Yo, Shiv, what's happening, brother? I see you started your stream 2 hours ago, man. I was just popping in to just say hello and yeah, man, what the conversation was about, but I kind of just caught the last end of it, the tail end of it.
So what we was talking about, basically, let me give you a quick rundown. So we was talking about comparisons between, you know, the police now and the police during times of slavery. We played a particular video that showed that, you know, during slavery, the police were literally doing the same thing to black people in slavery that they're doing to us now. Just stop and search you for no good reason, X, Y, Z. And basically just showing nothing hasn't really changed. We was talking about the fact that certain nationalities of people were given control of particular industries within the America, even in England, XYZ, like you got the Asians that own all the corner shops. Now, what we're asking is, what were the black people given? Yeah, and so far we haven't been able to discover anything. And then the next thing is this whole issue of, you know, the police abusing powers, you know, like with people with mental health, XYZ. So now they can just lock you up, throw away the key, and hold you within a system where you haven't even committed a crime, but they say you've got mental health issues. Do you feel me?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of these things are related in the sense of, you know, maybe we're not living in a system now what promotes slavery, what advertises it like it's a good thing, but it's literally still doing it. You know, it's like even this thing of how much people is locked up in jail for weed, and weed is now being made legal in certain of these places where they're locked up.
Right. Slap in the face. Oh,
So
shit.
what do you think? Give us some of your opinions, Akingo. We listening.
Yeah, it's a slap in the face, man. That's a big slap in the face. It's interesting when you break down nature of each individual European nation and what they've done and how they've acted and how they treat people of ethnic origin. It's quite interesting that they all vary, but they all have the sort of the end goal is to keep black people out of competition. And I've been thinking about competition a lot, and that's where they don't want us to compete. And they know that we're very, very strong competition. Any sort of person of ethnic origin is strong competition, and they want to sort of like live in your shadow almost, you know, like they want what you've got. And I feel like in a world where you either come take what you want and die trying, or we all sort of do it in a peaceful way and democracy and the rest of it, right? And obviously England are pick, choose and refuse, and we're starting to see the weaknesses and the little man syndrome coming from the West, and they call it the Napoleon complex. And I feel like that's a general attitude. They're very, very, very inadequate around black people from every single facet of life, and every facet of every little bit of black people. Black people's reality. White people want a part of it, or they want to. It's almost like having a little man seeing a big man and like wanting to be able to box with him, and then because you can't, you'll chop off his knees from the knee down in order for and that's okay. And he's telling you that that's okay, that's fine, this is lawful, this is ethical. And we've come to deal with it and like live like that. But anyway, look, I'm going off on one. I think the interesting thing is, did the Irish? Yeah, everybody got given something, but you know, I think overall, black people aren't doing too bad at this time, at this stage, compared to how it was before, in a sense that they've at least been able to have some sort of domestic relief in these people's nations without getting sort of like your house burnt down now. Not many people are burning down your house anymore. Whereas before it was a regular thing. And the system will absorb you as opposed to just completely shit on you and use you as like sheep. Because I think what sort of level are we given? What are we afforded in the West as Black people, ethnic people? Are we above animals? Are we given more privilege than dogs and cats? I think so, just about, literally just about. But that you have to work for that to live better than a cat or dog. If you feel like you're going to come here and sort of like not shine, you're going to be a bum. You're going to be in jail because you made a move that try and get some money. They're going to always keep you at arm's length of becoming independent of the system. Yeah, man, I think it's jokes. Yeah, it's quite funny that even now, even though they've stolen all their ancestors, like Indiana Jones with the khaki suit and everything, went and stole everything, most of the stuff, and put them in museums and whatnot, or bought you out, which is the same as stealing. It's what the Chinese do, basically. They're buying them out. They still will, if you don't know, still steal off of you. So if you don't know, so for example, if you've got you're working from, yeah, big up Eve. If you're working from home, you've got a plethora of loads of different opportunities and business ideas, all the rest of it. You've got a winner of a business idea, because don't forget they've got business development executives and all these people stealing stuff from the MI5 and the rest of it. There's a guy that was talking about it, and we can go into the more a discreet way of them stealing, which they'll say to call it Cambridge Analytica, and we know that that's just like their sort of ethical excuse for getting information. Oh, we've got this sophisticated technology now, but we don't want that though. We don't want you taking our data because you're stealing our intellectual. So the brain drain is real, and why I wake up every day and super duper flex my chest and just have the most confidence, because it's almost like when everybody sees a beautiful woman and she's dressed really well, or they see someone with wisdom like Mayweather, they do anything to fucking take what he's got, get all information, everything to absorb that greatness. So I wake up every day knowing that they're still doing it today, right now. Like I can imagine that there's about 50 or 60 people watching a stream individually of each one of us, because there's so little of us here, and there's enough of them bums and a lot of money and loads of time to waste to be able to watch people. So I reckon there's about at least 60 people, unless you're really boring. If you're fucking boring, you probably won't get much. But all these people you're getting watched. It's a Big Brother show. I reckon there's a Big Brother show on each individual person here. That's how much they are just in awe of Black people. You think it's a joke, and then you'll say, "Oh, this guy's got an ego. He's got an ego." No, it's not. It actually gets creepy if you used to look at all the small prints and all the finer details of how they are just completely all over your shit, all over it. Whereas you wouldn't even bat an eyelid at most of what comes out of the West. Not really your thing. Ham, wolves aren't that pretty, foxes ain't that shiny and colourful. Nothing really here is that stimulating.
Can I ask you a question?
On the other hand, look at you like you're God.
Let me ask you a question, Kingo. Yeah, because I think it's relevant to the subject matter of, especially when it comes to this Irish police system within the Americas. Obviously, growing up, we was taught that to some extent Irish people believed they were slaves also. They were treated unfairly. They say things like no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. But then my issue is going to be this: if the police force was to some extent dominated by the Irish, and we know the police force is racist, then how can we stand side by side with these Irish and have them talking about we got the same treatment? That don't make no sense. Do you feel where I'm coming from? And then, you know, I've heard, like, for instance, I've been on some other channels and I've heard some Irish people speaking, some of them female, some of them male, and the way they will speak is like, you know, Irish don't have a problem with no one. They ain't got a problem with black people. But if the police force is dominated by the Irish, then how can that be true? Especially in the Americas. How can that be true?
So yeah, how could people be standing side by side with the same sentiment?
Do you understand? That makes sense.
And I think I see it as, oh well, you guys are weak-minded and you're emotionally unstable and you're not in control and you're weak. So they say, oh well, we've been through equal. I don't think it's a case of, oh, we're seeing eye to eye and I can empathize with your experience. No, it's oh well, you're weak. Look at us, we're strong, and we're leading by example, and you should fall in line. So literally, this is why when I look at it and think of it, you know, really, I think they know what they're doing, innit? They know what they're doing. It's their really futile attempt of mind.
But is the difference not the fact that those people still had rights? As a black person at that time, you wouldn't have even had rights.
Yeah, and the rest of the 9 yards. And there were Irish people with their little dungeons, with their black women doing all their nasty shit, having all that nasty shit. There was definitely Irish people doing that. And when you see the Irish now are in places where you've got direct contact with them, where it's almost like they're sheep. They're the sheep. Well, we're the sheep, and they're the collie, the border collie, who's controlling. You know, the shepherd almost. Not the shepherd, because the shepherd is the we know who, right? But the sheep, the flock, the dog flock, the dog. Somebody said there's a positions in society. The system is the shepherd is the English. All the rest of the other old sort of empires, the Italians, all these Irish, because they're empire. They did have power at once. They were sovereign. The Celts, okay. Now they've given all these people the dog position, right? The herder, the border collie, and they don't want to deal with black people directly, and they never have. They never have. The English are fucking cowards, man. Not the English normal people, but the English movement, the alliance forces, their military, have never wanted to fight black people hand to hand, and they never have. They never will. The only time they have is when slaves broke out. Do you think they'd be trying to enslave black people if they had just a weapon? They had to have people in bondage to be able for black people to get their hands on them. So now when black people broke out of their bondage and they got their hands on, that was what? Haiti, innit? And the Spanish got kicked their ass, and Napoleon got his ass kicked. So I see that they're giving all these people different positions, and they're happy to play it. They're happy to play it because black people are overwhelmed. Got a really strong presence, and for another man, don't forget there's other men in it. We're still competing, no matter even though there's a devil cunt that's just still hiding and causing all this sort of friction. But we're still men as men. I think that blacks will always beef with Irish and always beef with these other, because we're men, innit? We've got two testicles. I don't think anybody's going to go to the level that this demon's gone to on us again.
No,
it can't happen again.
The point I'm making is, though, I can go, yeah. It's like we as black people, yeah. It's like people will act like they're our friends, and we might even accept them as a friend. But these same Irish people that claim to be our friends, hold on, you're the ones running the police department that's murdering us. I have to now take a step back from that situation and say, hold up, we can't be friends unless the murder stops, unless you start dealing with the issues in your community. We can't really be friends like that. You know, maybe some of you are all right. Maybe some of you are integrated with us also. So do you know what? To some extent, I can't say all, but to some extent, some of you are definitely racist, isn't it? And then it's like, looking at this article here, yeah. So this is from let me tell you what. This is from the History News. I'm assuming this is the same people who do the History Channel. Yeah. It says New York's longest serving police commissioner, Ray Kelly, is an Irish American. So is the department's current commissioner, James O'Neill. Yeah. So we're just talking about New York here, but we're getting an example now of how much power the Irish have within the police system, just within that region. It says municipal police departments across the country celebrate the role of Irish American cops with Emerald Societies. Yeah, I don't even know what that is, an Emerald Society, but that's what they got there. It says, and there's historic reason for all of this. Through the 20th century, Irish Americans dominated many urban police departments. To some extent, they still do today. So we know that I'm not talking rubbish when I say that, you know, they have a massive influence within this so-called racist system. And it says, the flood of Irish into law enforcement in the second half of the 19th century, which is less than 100 years ago, was particularly striking because just a couple of decades, 200 years ago, because just a couple of decades earlier, cities' authorities had viewed Irish immigrants as a source of serious crime problem. In fact, to a large extent, northern US cities invented their police departments as a way to control the Irish problem. So now me reading this says to me that, you know what? These same people you've allowed into the police department to dominate it were criminals. So you've allowed a bunch of criminals into a police system, yeah, which don't make no sense. If your police are criminals, your system's already broken from the get-go, yeah. Not only that, you know, we've got to deal with the racism on top of it. So, you know, that's why the police are like thugs. This is why they probably don't stick to the rules. They want to go around battering people because, you know, this is historically what the police do. You know, that's what their job was always supposed to be. It says, in the mid-19th century, and particularly after the Great Famine that ravaged Ireland in late 1840s, families fled to America with no money to buy land, ending up in the growing shanty towns and slums of cities like New York, Philadelphia, and Boston. They took the jobs they could get as unskilled laborers, domestic servants, making very little money like other struggling groups before them. Some turned to petty theft or to sex work to make ends meet. So what you've done is you've invaded our country, invaded our land, and you've brought stupid amounts of criminals, sex workers, and rare tear, you know, to destroy the environment, to destroy the mindset of the people, and to change it into, you know, this the despicable nature that we've seen, you know, for the last however many 100 years up until today. And it says, but it wasn't just crime that worried the authorities. Historian James Barrett, author of The Irish Way, says anti-Catholic prejudice combined with cultural differences made the influx of Irish families seem particularly threatening. Irish immigrants of the era mainly came from the countryside where a rougher way of life, including drinking and clashes between rival clans, was common. In the tightly packed urban neighborhoods of a country gripped in temperance fever, it created a power keg. Most historians would agree that there was very strong prejudice against the Irish, Barrett explains. That translates into a lot of different things, like problems in getting jobs. But it doesn't translate into racism. So let's just get that correct. Because when the Irish people want to keep talking like we've been through the same as you, like, no, you're not the same. Yeah, get that shit correct and stop talking these nonsense, because it says it quite here. It says translates into a lot of different things like problems getting job. It says very strong prejudice against Irish. It don't say prejudice against white or anything to do with your color. Yeah, maybe your nationality, but remember, you could drop the Irish accent if you wanted to. You could even lie. No one ain't gonna know. Yeah, back then you didn't even have ID like we do now. So it says, one early violent clash came in 1813-7 in Boston, where an Irish funeral processed procession blocked a volunteer firefighting company made up of American-born Protestants returning from a fire. A history blogger, Patrick Brown, writes that a riot that followed involved 15,000 people, about a fifth of the city's population. Yankees ransacked and virtually destroyed the city's Broad Street Irish neighborhood, though the only people convicted in the wake of the riot were Irish Americans. Now, okay, fair enough. The only people convicted were Irish Americans, but I'd imagine at that time they didn't have control in the police department like that. So, you know, maybe they was the victims to some extent at one point, but not to the extent that black people were. No way, shape, or form. And how can you go from being the victim to want to victimize other people and victimize other people groups? I think that's despicable. I think that makes you worse. Yeah. It says, police did nothing to stop the Broad Street riot because formal police squads did not yet exist, according to Marilyn S. Johnson, a history professor at Boston College. By the 1830s, Southern communities had already created the forerunners of modern police departments in the form of slave patrols. Now, listen to this again, because remember, we just watched this video. So anyone who took what that woman was saying in the video for joke or took it for granted, let's read that again. Yeah. Police did nothing to stop the Broad Street riot because formal police squads did not yet exist. According to Marilyn S. Johnson, a history professor at Boston College, by the 1830s, Southern communities had already created the forerunners of the modern police departments in the form of slave patrols. So check this one out, yeah? Anyone who didn't get that, your modern day police department, yeah, was based on slave patrols, but northern cities still relied on a volunteer watch system in which male citizens served a few hours a week. That wasn't sufficient to handle changing urban dynamics, but the way they dealt with the slaves was, yeah. So everything you're seeing now, everything I'm saying, yeah, is 100. Yeah, and this is why the police won't leave black people alone. Yeah, I'm gonna highlight this, yeah, so everyone can see it. Like I'm just like this, I'm appalled. Yeah, you can see that for yourself. Look on your screens if you can't see it. Yeah. Let me just highlight that sentence. Yeah. Modern police departments, Southern communities had already created the forerunners of modern police departments in the form of slave patrol. I'm flabbergasted. Like, Kingo, talk to me, like, because I know you're quite opinionated. What do you think about that? Talk to me.
What the split, the way slave catchers and stuff.
Listen, I'll read it again. It says, by 1830s, Southern communities had already created the forerunners of the modern police department, in the form of slave patrols. Now, before we get this word forerunners confused, I know what it means, but I'm just going to get it up and I'm going to read you the definition to forerunners real quickly. Then I'm going to let Kingo go. So, forerunners meaning, let's get that up on my screen quickly. A person or thing that precedes the coming or development of something or of someone or something else. Yeah. So it says the ice safe was a forerunner of today's refrigerator. So what that means is, before we had a refrigerator, they had already come up with an idea, yeah, which was called an ice safe. Yeah. So that's what the fridge was based on. That's where they got the ideas, they started from. Yeah. Now the police was started from, oh my God. Let me get this right. Slave patrols. So before there was any such thing as the modern day police department in America as we know it today, the same job was born out of slave patrols. Yeah, so the slave patrollers was the only thing that was anything like the police. So as far as the white people was concerned in America at that time, there was no police. Police was only for black people. Yeah, because if you was a white person, you weren't under no slave patrol, unless maybe, you know, you was one of these Irish people that sold yourself into servitude for the promise of riches or land or whatever you promised you was given. But black people weren't promised nothing. Yeah, and you can't leave them plantations. Yeah, you're the property of. Irish people weren't property of like that. So when people want to try and make comparisons, this is why I thought it was important to break this down for people. You can't compare. There's no comparison. Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, if you was an Irish person, you could have been the overseer. You could have been a slaver. You could have been all of these things. And on top of that, you decide after you're saying that you was perpetrated and you was discriminated against, you decide to join a police department which was started off, it was based on slave patrols. So those first police that were joining those police departments, what were you doing? You was patrolling slaves. I don't know. Do you know what? I didn't want to make assumptions here, because we don't need to make assumptions. We just know where it's coming from. Yeah. And once we know where it's coming from, you know, to be fair, I don't know if we even really need to read the rest of this. Yeah. I can read some more if you are interested. Let's see if there's anything else good in it. It says new immigration groups were moving into the cities. Labor conflict was developing. The gang activity was developing, pitting groups from different ethnicities and neighborhoods against one another, says Johnson. So you start seeing the formation of urban police departments. Yeah. Now, it says the year after the Broad Street riot, Boston created the nation's first full-time police department, followed by New York in 1845. But there was barely a pretense of professional training or discipline amongst these early police forces. There was a lot of just random beating up of people to keep order. Yeah. Now, don't that sound exactly right what they was doing to the slaves? If the slave's sick and can't even work, like tomfoolery said earlier, they just beat you, random beating for no. It's not even achieving the goal that they set out to achieve. It's not even going to get you to do no more work. They're just going to beat you, just to make an example out of you. Yeah. It says the new police.
It's interesting. Yeah. So it's a feudal system. So it's a feudal system, right? With a king, queen, monarchy, a structured system with different, you know, you're going to be more powerful than the next person down based on your position in society and your occupation, right? And that's generally your occupation is based on the finances you have to go and get the schooling that you need to get to go and do that, right? And that's always going to be based on your money, and that and on all that shit. So these people have monetized having the power of a mob in the form of slave people, right? Yeah, and that's what it is. So without them, police, could we have a functioning, could we have a function in society, right?
Yeah, it would be better, definitely, definitely.
And I think that's the discussion we should be having, bro.
Well, they had one. When you say this, they had one. There weren't no police, was there? And you know, the only police that was around was just beating up black people. So how come people were fine before then? And then it's like, as far as the America in New York at that time, they said they had a watch system. Now, you know, the young men of a certain age would have to take a certain amount of hours every week and, you know, stand watch and XYZ. Now I can understand that to some extent, maybe that wasn't sufficient, but just the fact that the whole policing system was based off the back of slavery and slave capturers and slave drivers, it's no wonder they treat black people the way they do. And then it's like, to me, you know, after having all these conversations about, you know, we're Irish slaves too and rare tet, I think that the Irish people, if you're an Irish, say like you're a traveler, you're an Irish traveler, yeah, and you come from that background where you don't have no involvement with police, no matter what the circumstance, do you know what? Maybe you lot might be all right. Yeah, I'm saying maybe because I don't know for definite that anyone's all right till they show me it. But you see these other ones, how can we trust you when you lot are the police? You are the ones beating us. You are the ones murdering our brothers and sisters in the street. So how can we trust you? How can we act like we're friends? Where's the friendship in that? You know, and then
Well,
to come from a people that was apparently discriminated against to then get into a discriminatory system like the police and enforce those discriminatory laws, it's like, nah, that's next level evil.
well, don't forget, my friend, how many conquered, right, and enslaved people have had to look like they're literally completely cooning out. It's happened to the Asians, the Indians, the Chinese, after they got fucking basically drugged out. You know, they've all sort of seen the benefit of cozying up to the West because they know that there's so much milk and honey in Africa that, and whilst a black man's getting like, you know, getting marginalized, it's a good time for them to take advantage in it. So they're right there. I think it's in their best interest to turn a blind eye, and that's what I see the world doing in it. They've almost feeling like I think, and you know what? Yeah, sometimes people say I think unity can almost be your demise sometimes, you know, because it's interesting when you talk about Pan-Africanism. It's like, yeah, if you saw a bunch of different black guys from all over the place coming together, unified, that's more likely going to make you a target than not. So I feel like I just see it as what's the best like I feel like the only way to get through your life right now, right, if you're not trying to do joint enterprises, to play your position in it, like and just try and do what you can for solutions, right? And that's one of the hardest things to do, because I think you know, going over these things and how what white people have done to black people, and you know, I don't like to say white people. I want to call it the corporations, man. You know what I mean? Because no group of racists, unless it's real fucking far back in the day and they just jumped on the ship as explorers and just took 100 people with their little gadgets. I don't know. I mean, they can't really do much to black people. It's these big, huge, you know, this big enterprise of rich people with wealth, and I see the Irish actually as, yeah, a lot of normal people did suffer, bruv, and they can completely empathize with black people, and I would say that there was the hierarchy of Irish were probably a conglomerate, working for English people, and probably would like the fact that England came so they could usurp power, or they thought the power system structure was unfair anyway. So, you know, it's interesting that in Ireland you can find the most racist guy who's completely down for capitalism and the West and English, but then you have someone who would say that actually has gone through more and is more adverse to the system than black people is. So he's more of a soldier. He would be a perfect soldier for if there was a kickoff and there was like a judgment day and it was the people versus the system. They would probably be a useful tool, because they've got pride as well. They kind of fall on their sword. So, you know, in that sense, and because they are black, they've got a lot of black blood. You see that too a lot. They got black hair.
We're looking here, just looking on YouTube. Yeah, I just type in racism Ireland. Yeah, and I'm finding a lot of sources. So it seems to me that, you know, there may be definitely to some extent an issue with black people in Ireland, you know. And I've even found something here. Look, I've got this one here. It says Mike Epps, The Irish Are Drunks, episode 6. And they've put that's racist. Now, saying Irish people are drunks, I'm sorry, that can't be racist. Racism has to talk about the caste of a people. It can't talk about a nationality. That's not racism. That's, you could call it nationalism if you want, but you can't call it racism. Because remember, black people ain't just African. Black people are African. Black people are West Indian. Black people are Australian, or you know, Polynesian. Black people are all over the place. You got blacks in India. You got black people everywhere. So when we say black people, we're not talking about a nationality. So when they start talking about, you know, saying Irish people are drunks is racism, I think that's ridiculous. So I'm gonna just ignore that video. But I think maybe we should go. Go on. What are you gonna say?
Racism. The fucking subject. It's when someone is
making a blanket statement about people who have a particular look.
Generalizing. That's the word I'm looking for. Generalizing.
People have a particular look and making blanket statements. But
that's a modern day. That's the most, say, refined way of saying racist. Okay, cool. Yeah. I would say so. And that's why you got to be careful with your words and how you address certain issues relating to race.
See, this video at the top here looks really interesting because it says Irish travelers say racism is causing a suicide crisis. BBC News. This is from 2 months ago. So I want to see what this is saying. And let's see if we can get a breakdown of, you know, the racism issue in Ireland and, you know, the struggles that are being faced by black people. Or I don't know I don't even know if this is going to talk about black people. Let's see what they're talking about. I don't want to second guess anything.
Suellen was my sister-in-law. She was 32 and she died by suicide. My brother John was 34. He died by suicide. My brother Timmy was 38. He died through suicide. My cousin Paul was in his 30s. He died through suicide. My cousin Terry was 27. He died through suicide. My second little cousin Marlene, she was 13. She died through suicide.
What? Oh, the travelers.
And it does have.
Now, Kingo, quote me if I'm wrong, but remember I said this earlier. I said, you know what? You see, for the Irish travelers and certain people in the Irish community that don't take part in the police and whatever, maybe you're a bit different. Maybe you know, maybe some of you lot are facing the issues that you say Irish people are facing when it comes to racism. But for the other ones, I can't speak on them, mate. And then you watch a video like this and it's like, we've already got that sentiment. It's like, how do I know these things? How did I work that one out? We didn't get to this video yet, but let me play some more. I'm gonna let this finish. I'm gonna play one more, and then I'm gonna have to head out. So we're gonna lock it down. But I'm gonna let you give us your final words on it.
Have an impact on your mental health. It's trying to pass as a member of the settled population, so you're not being your true, authentic self. That mentally is very, very difficult. You know, you're living two separate lives and no one can maintain that.
Yeah, they deliberately put that wall around us to fence travellers in completely away from society, out of sight and out of mind.
So if you know, and your husband or one of your children wanted to go out for, I don't know, a cup of tea or a meal, would you have to sort of pick where you went to know that you went
definitely. And I'd have to have a relationship with that service to be able to book it and that they'd know me and my family. You just couldn't randomly say I'm thirsty or...
Today's conference was told how the ugly monster of racism has taken to our streets.
When I want to take a cab, the man refused to take me.
You end up meeting lots of people on the street thinking they're good Christian, but no, they're not. they're not.
This report on the growing level of racism was broadcast in the year 2000. And in the past 21 years, immigration has grown, and yet the problem hasn't been tackled. Racist incidents are rising, according to the Irish Network Against Racism. So what needs to be done to ensure that the problem doesn't get any worse?
Most people, I think, would like to see Ireland as an open and tolerant society. However well-meaning that is, though, our institutions don't look like the wider diversity of our society, such as, say, the civil service, the teachers in our schools, perhaps even the media. Academia could be more representative, I think, of wider society also. So I think there is a sort of an onus in us then to see that those institutions begin to reflect the diversity of our society.
That diversity is not greatly evident where the biggest decisions are made. Senator Eileen Flynn, who's a member of the traveller community, understands the struggle in getting beyond the gates of Leinster House.
I know how tough it can be to go on to be anything you want to be once you put your mind to it. We have to look at the our economic background. We have to look at our our gender, or just the world around us and where we.
All right, quick point. So if it's hard enough for a white person who comes from a traveller community to get into certain establishments, to get in with the government X, Y, Z, how do we as black people even have a chance in Ireland? So how can they talk about, other nations like Britain, X, Y, Z being racist when you got this massive, that this is crazy. This is crazy. If a white person can't even get in, because you're going to be racist to them because they're a traveller, just because of the community they come from, in the sense of, they've got a slightly different way of life, but they look similar to you. Imagine someone who don't look like you. Imagine them black man that we just saw in the video trying to get into the job she's trying to get into. It's not happening, mate. So for all the Irish people that thought there wasn't a problem of racism amongst Irish people, I hope you listen. Let her finish. Let her finish. I'm gonna flick to one more, and then I'm gonna get a Kingo's rundown. I want to get your verdict, and then we're cutting. That's a good enough show for the day.
We fit in them words because, again, economic discrimination is very, very real in Ireland today, and unfortunately, we don't all have the same opportunities to get into the House of Directors.
Senator Eileen Flynn, who's a member of the traveller community, Fianna Fáil's Arumu Adejemi, is an example of that.
It's so important, in this conversation about race, conversations about discrimination, how do we tackle it is if we have adequate representation, we can start changing the narrative to show particularly the migrants that, these are areas where you can excel, and to show the natives as well that, there's not much difference between us, but our accent or the color of our skin,
These women are subject to racism through internet platforms. And while the government's publication of hate crime legislation has been welcomed, Ireland's Human Rights and Equality Commissioner says it's not enough.
Certainly, I don't think government are dealing with it. I mean, if internet platforms are profiting through the polarisation of views or the proliferation of hate speech online, we have to look at that.
Leadership was called for back in the year 2000 to ensure people are welcomed here and not just tolerated.
Programme. Trina, let's talk first about the racial abuse that the Lion King cast at Bord Gáis Theatre were subjected to as they made their way home from performances this week. Many people may have been shocked at what happened to them, but experience and research shows that sadly this is not uncommon.
No, it's not uncommon. These kind of what we call microaggressions that people are faced with every day are something that very often aren't reported.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I had to pause that there. Because when a person says microaggressions, racism, you're going to count that as a microaggression. I can't see that as micro, but I'm going to let this young lady, talk her piece. I'm going to be quiet. And like I said, we're going to get a Kingo's verdict. But I thought I'd just give my piece on this now. This is not micro. So even that sentence is minimalizing it. I don't think it's good enough what she's saying.
because they're just something that people have to deal with. I think because this is high profile, people are hearing about it. But if you talk to anybody from the BAM community or even people with a disability, any of these communities will tell you that they face violence on the street, they face aggressive language, they face slurs on a daily basis. So it's not unusual. So just because it's high profile, people are hearing about it more. And most people just get on with it because they don't know what to do. And it's just become part of their life.
Yeah, Yemi, as a Black woman, have you been subjected to similar abuse?
I certainly have, Claire. My children have. I have 4 kids. I'll just give you perhaps an example that many people might be able to relate with. When I ran in the local elections in 2019, at the doors, I remember particularly one man asking me if I thought I was intelligent enough to run. And every time I spoke, he kept pretending like he didn't understand what I was saying. My son, who is now 13, came home one day when he was in primary school, and he said to me that some of the kids around the area where we lived at the time had asked him permission to use the N-word for him. Now, these are kids. Nobody's born racist. We learn to be racist. And if we can learn to be racist, we can learn to be anti-racist. So we have a lot of work to do in that regard. One thing is clear. Ireland is a multicultural nation now, and a lot of migrants who are here to live, to build their lives, to contribute to the economy. I have 4 children. I have 2 grandchildren. I'm first-generation migrant. My children are second-generation migrants. My 2 grandsons are third-generation migrants. I'm concerned about them. And what we need to begin to do is to have conversations about how we can live together, how we can understand ourselves better, learn more about ourselves, and create a platform where we can have difficult conversations and not run away from conversations that we're afraid of. There's a lot of fear of the unknown, because people sometimes would say they don't understand some of the people from other cultures. Let's just have conversations.
It sounds like what you're saying is, Yemi, is it's an education issue.
Absolutely. Education is a big part of what we're talking about.
All right. I think I'm done on that note. And I think I totally agree with what this lady is saying. Yeah. White people, you're teaching your kids to be racist. And if you're teaching the kids to be anti-racist, hats off to you. Round of applause. Well done, well done, well done. It's not good enough, though. We still need you to repair the damage that's been done. You know, like that. We still need you to repair your system that wants to police black people, you know, search us for unnecessary reasons. When you got racists out there, how come that's not your main focus? How come we're always your main focus? What? Because we smoked a little bit of weed. Hold on. In these other communities, these other criminal communities, in America, you gave them control of the arrested police. Yeah. You got how much people doing crimes where, you know, they bleed the society dry. So people are now going without. People are actually suffering from those crimes, like real sufferation. But you want to lock us up because you had a little bit of weed. All right, do you know what? Fair enough. They sold drugs or whatever they did. And fair enough, that's a crime in today's modern day society. But does it have more of an effect than the crimes that your people are committing? Yeah, at the higher level. And why ain't they go in jail when they're destroying lives? They're murdering people. Like, do you know what? On that note, I'm going to stop talking. Kingo, give us your breakdown, bro, before we go. But I think this is a good one still. I think the Irish people got a lot of explaining to do. Other than the travelers, but at this point. But the travelers, we still going to be looking into if the travelers have this racial issue as well, because we've not dived into that side of it. And from what we've seen here, they get prejudiced too. So if you are prejudiced to black people too, I'm making you 10 times worse. Don't make me find that you're getting prejudiced and you're being treated and racially discriminated or so-called racially discriminated against, because it's not really racial, but then you want to prejudice us. That's an oxymoron, isn't it? But Kingo, give us your verdict.
Well, there's a lot there, man. There's a lot. There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. I don't really know where to start, to be honest with you, brother. I mean, I probably shouldn't even have smoked a joint before coming on to talk about something this politically complex situation. Yeah, look it like this. I think we clearly know, and I was thinking about this earlier on. This is sick that it's come up as well, Shift. Yeah, like how you would teach your kid to be racist. So it's like, how can black people be targeted by just a normal everyday white person? Yeah. And I feel like the main thing is like you're always gonna have a little white kid or a black kid that says, "Oh, that person's white, little whitey," or whatever word black person. The white kid would say the same thing. Are you black something? But I'm thinking, what perpetuates that? And I feel like it's the fact that it's well, it's not. I feel like it definitely is. You teaching your kids. So how could we stop that from happening? Because that's where racism is like exercised, right? And that's still still can affect people, like, you know what I mean? Still people can get, like, as you said, people can commit suicide. So I think it's like this family thing, and it's like you're teaching your kids to be actively racist is something that my family didn't do in it. They never do that. It's only until I got older and I started asking questions, obviously, then I found out about world history. But like teaching your kids like words and nigger and this and all that, I know they're doing it, bro. And that's what it is. That's what it is. And that's why when you got these men that are just going out and doing what they're just taking a piss and not being a law-abiding citizen, and they just sort of rob anybody and fuck anybody over, and just not that, you know, not what you expect it to be, not a village mentality. Let's put it that way. It's because of that. It's because of they feel like, all right, well, they're actively teaching their children to be racist. Like so what?
Yeah.
How do you fight against that, bro? You know what I mean? It's like on that level, that's clearly like we know the police are definitely.
That was a bad boy statement, you
100%.
know. I'm ending
Bro,
on that statement. Hold on, I'm still talking
thanks
to
for
you.
letting
Though.
me on, man.